Hello. Hello. Oh, can you see my mouse? I don't want that. Hold on. Howdy. Hi. What the heck? Wait, why is it only... Oh, it's probably this one. No, it doesn't have properties. Oh, this one? Properties? No. Oh my god, guys. Well, I guess my mouse is just there. You like my little, my cat ears that are like very precariously on my head? It took a really long time to get them in the right spot, because otherwise they would like stick to my hair. But I needed them to stick to my ears. Yeah, exactly. So, cat ears times 2. So today, guys, the stream's a little bit different. As you can see, I have gotten rid of a lot of the redeems so that when I'm reading, there isn't really an interruption. I guess the only interruption would be when there's like a raid or something, or tips, but I don't think anyone's donating the tips, which I figured out. I figured out how to fix those, so those are working. Yes, you can change my hair. You can change my hair. You can still do all the stream avatar things, whatever you want. It's all good. What else is there? Hair yeeted. Yes, indeed. So my plan is I'm gonna read through each chapter, and at the end of the chapter, then I'll discuss kind of what happened in the chapter, you know? So I don't like stop in the middle of it and like be like, oh my god, what the heck just happened here? Rusty's such a weird cat, you know? I can do that at the end of the chapter. I'm also gonna try and give them all voices. They might not be good voices, but you know, because there's gonna be a lot of cats. A lot of cats. I also, I forgot, I wanted to set up a death count for all the dead cats. Like, we're only counting like ones that had names, or that was like really prominent, you know, that was like specifically said in the text, like, oh, so and so just died. I was thinking about doing that, but I forgot to set it up. As you know, this stream was supposed to be yesterday. But sorry, I'm distracted by my mouse. But I messed up my monitors because I was a little silly goose. What ended up happening was, so I updated my drivers, and when it updated my drivers, it reset all my my settings in the control panel for Nevada, you know, the NVIDA drivers. It ended up resetting NVIDIA. It ended up resetting that, so G-Sync started, and my second monitor doesn't support G-Sync, so it stopped working. And all what I had to do, despite messing it up quite a bit, was turn off G-Sync. So now I know. Also, Peachy helped me a lot. Starting strong with the English struggles. Ah, yes. You're right. So that's another thing. I'm not good at reading. If you guys didn't know, when I was little, I was very anxious. I'm still very anxious. But in school, when you're supposed to read in front of the class or like read chapters with the class, I would just like time it so that either I could go to the bathroom and then not have to read a part, or I would just reread the one part that I was supposed to read a bazillion times just to make sure I would get it right, you know. Ah, blah, blah, blah. Hi, Moo. And I would still get it messed up. So that sucked. So anyways, I didn't have a lot of practice reading out loud. That's why I suck at reading out loud. You did the second one too. Then you're not like you're not listening to anything that's going on in the story anymore. You're just focusing on that one paragraph. What's worse is that I was in French immersion, right? And so it was in French. And so I wouldn't even understand what I was reading because I was so focused on trying to say it correctly. And then that didn't help my English because all what I would do was talk in French, and then I couldn't talk in English. And so here we are. I just have troubles actually comprehending what the heck I just read. Yeah. So when I'm reading today, I'll hiccup a lot. But maybe that'll be part of the charm. So you'll arrive back later. Okay. This stream is meant to be more of something you can either come back to as a VOD or just be doing something else while I'm reading. But you can comment. I mean, I wouldn't stop you if you wanted to like comment in the chat about what's happening in the story. Actually, speaking of which, how do I set up a... Do you know how to set up a poll? I want to set up a poll. Actually, I have no idea how to. Okay, well, I don't know how to. My question was going to be, how many of you have actually read Warriors? And how many of you, is this going to be your first Warrior Cat experience? We're starting with the prologue because when I was a kid, I thought that prologues were optional. And I never read the prologue, and so I had absolutely no idea what was going on. Because the prologue in the first book of Warriors, at least, is very important to the plot. And I didn't know that. And so I was confused. You never finished the series. Yeah, because the series is still going. You can't finish a series that hasn't ended yet. It's still going? Yeah, of course. Of course. Who do you think Warrior Cats is? They are not? Wait, what? I thought they were done. I mean, not done. Is Warrior Cats still going? Yeah, it's still going. You silly gooses. The top Reddit was, is Warrior Cats ever gonna end? No. Sources say no. Okay. Whew. Guys ready? I think it's about time we we start the novel. So, you guys can't see it, but in every warrior book, at the very beginning, it shows all the cats. Like, it describes every single cat. So it says the leader, the deputy, the medicine cat, the warriors, and then it like describes every single cat in every single clan that's relevant. And then it shows a map of the forest, which I don't have. But that's okay. You can just use your imagination. Honestly, I never really referred to this map because it didn't really suit my my image of what the forest looked like. It was a little bit of a letdown, so I don't really refer to it. I refer to my brain. Okay, it's time. It's time. Okay. Warrior cats into the wild. Prologue. A half moon glowed on a smooth granite boulder, turning them silver. The silence was broken only by the ripple of water from the swift black river and the whisper of trees in the forest beyond. There was a stirring in the shadows, and from all around, lithe dark shapes crept stealthily over the rocks. Unsheathed claws glinted in the moonlight. Wary eyes flashed like amber. And then, as if on a silent signal, the creatures leaped at each other, and suddenly the rocks were alive with wrestling, screeching cats. At the center of the frenzy of fur and claws, a massive dark tabby pinned a bracken-colored tom to the ground and drew up his head triumphantly. "Oh, Cart," the tabby growled. "How dare you hunt in our territory? The Shining Rocks belong to ThunderClan. After tonight, Tiger Claw, this will just be another RiverClan hunting ground." The bracken-colored tom spat back. A warning yowl came from the shore, shrill and anxious. "Look out! More RiverClan warriors are coming!" Tiger Claw turned to see sleek, wet bodies sliding out of the water below the rocks. The drenched RiverClan warriors bounded silently up the shore and hurled themselves into battle without even stopping to shake the water from their fur. The dark tabby glared down at Oakard. "You may swim like otters, but you and your warriors do not belong in this forest." He drew back his lips and showed his teeth as the cat straggled beneath him. The desperate scream of a ThunderClan she-cat rose above the clamor. A wiry RiverClan tom had pinned the brown warrior flat on her belly. Now he lunged towards her neck with jaws still dripping from his swim across the river. Tiger Claw heard the cry and let go of Oakheart. With a mighty leap, he knocked the enemy warrior away from the she-cat. "Quick, Mousefur, run!" he ordered, before turning on the RiverClan tom who had threatened her. Mousefur scrambled to her paws, wincing from a deep gash in her shoulder, and raced away. Behind her, Tiger Claw spat with rage as the RiverClan tom sliced open his nose. Blood blinded him for an instant, but he lunged forward regardless and sank his teeth in the hind leg of his enemy. The RiverClan cat squealed and struggled free. "Tiger Claw!" The yowl came from a warrior with a tail as red as fox fur. "This is useless. There are too many RiverClan warriors." "No, Redtail. ThunderClan will never be beaten," Tiger Claw yowled back, leaping on Redtail's side. "This is our territory." Blood was welling around the broad black muscle, and he shook his head impatiently, scattering scarlet drops on the rocks. ThunderClan will honor your courage, Tiger Claw, but we cannot afford to lose any more of our warriors," Redtail urged. "Bluestar would never expect her warriors to fight against these impossible odds. We will have to find another chance to avenge this defeat. He met Tiger Claw's ember-eyed gaze steadily, then reared away and sprung onto a boulder at the edge of the trees. Retreat! ThunderClan, retreat! He yowled. At once his warriors squirmed and struggled away from their opponents. Spitting and snarling, they backed towards Redtail. For a heartbeat, RiverClan cats looked confused. Was this battle so easily won? Then Oakheart yowled a jubilant cry as soon as they heard him. The RiverClan warriors raised their voices and joined their deputy in caterwauling their victory. Redtail looked down at his warriors. With a flick of his tail, he gave the signal, and the ThunderClan cats dived down the far side of Shining Rocks, then disappeared into the trees. Tiger Claw followed last. He hesitated at the edge of the forest and glanced back at the blood-stained battlefield. His face was grim, his eyes furious slits. Then he leapt after his clan into the silent forest. In a deserted clearing, an old gray she-cat sat alone, staring up at the clear night sky. All around her in the shadows, she could hear the breathing and stirring of sleeping cats. A small tortoiseshell she-cat emerged from the dark corner, her paw steps quick and soundless. The gray cat dipped her head in greeting. "How's Mouse Fur?" she meowed. "Her wounds are deep, Blue Star," answered the tortoiseshell, settling herself on the night-cool grass. "But she is young and strong. She will heal quickly. And the others? They will all recover too." Blue Star sighed. We are lucky to not have lost any of our warriors this time. You are a gifted medicine cat, Spotted Leaf." She tilted her head again and studied the stars. "I am deeply troubled by tonight's defeat. ThunderClan has not been beaten in its own territory since I became leader," she murmured. "These are difficult times for our clan. The season of New Leaf is late, and there have been fewer kits. ThunderClan needs more warriors if it's to survive." "But the year is only just beginning," Spotted Leaf pointed out calmly. "There will be more kits when Greenleaf comes." The gray cat twitched her broad shoulders. "Perhaps, but training our young to become warriors takes time. If ThunderClan is to defend its territory, it must have new warriors as soon as possible." "Are you asking StarClan for answers?" meowed Spotted Leaf gently, following Blue Star's gaze and staring up at the swath of stars glittering in the dark sky. "It's times like these we need the words of ancient warriors to help us. Has StarClan spoken to you?" Blue Star asked. "Not for some moons, Blue Star." Suddenly, a shooting star blazed over the treetops. Spotted Leaf's tail twitched, and the fur along her spine bristled. Blue Star's ears pricked, but she remained silent as Spotted Leaf continued to gaze upward. After a few moments, Spotted Leaf lowered her head and turned to Blue Star. "It was a message from StarClan," she murmured. A distant look came into her eyes. "Fire alone can save our clan." "Fire?" Blue Star echoed. "But fire is feared by all the clans. How can it save us?" Spotted Leaf shook her head. "I do not know," she admitted. "But this is the message StarClan has chosen to share with me." The ThunderClan leader fixed her clear blue eyes on the medicine cat. "You have never been wrong before, Spotted Leaf," she meowed. "If StarClan has spoken, then it must be so. Fire alone will save our clan." Dun dun dun! Okay, that's a prologue. It's hard reading. What the heck? This is harder than gaming. Reading. Whew. I'm really working my brain muscles and my mouth muscles. The drama. What's crazy is I've watched and read. Thank you for the hi, Jay. I've watched and read so many things about this first book. Almost every single one of those quotes that the cat spoke, I have in my brain. Like, not memorized, but it's just so familiar to me. Crazy. Okay. Chapter 1. It was very dark. Rusty could sense something was near. The young tomcat's eyes opened wide as he scanned the dense undergrowth. This place was unfamiliar, but the strange sense drew him onward, deeper into the shadows. His stomach growled, reminding him of his hunger. He opened his jaws slightly to let the warm smells of the forest reach the scent glands in the roof of his mouth. Musty odors of leaf mold mingled in the tempting aroma of a small, furry creature. Suddenly, a flash of gray raced past him. Rusty stopped still, listening. It was hiding in the leaves less than two tail lengths away. Rusty knew it was a mouse. He could feel the rapid pulsing of a tiny heart deep within his ear fur. He swallowed, stifling his rumbling stomach. Soon his hunger would be satisfied. Slowly, he lowered his body into position, crouching for the attack. He was downwind of the mouse. He knew it not aware of him. With one final check on his prey's position, Rusty pushed back hard on his hunches and sprang, kicking up leaves on the forest floor as he rose. The mouse dived for cover, heading towards a hole in the ground, but Rusty was already on top of it. He scooped it up into the air, hooking the helpless creature with his thorn-sharp claws, flinging it up in a high arc onto the leaf-covered ground. The mouse landed dazed but alive. It tried to run, but Rusty snatched it up again. He tossed the mouse once more, this time a little further away. The mouse managed to scramble a few paces before Rusty caught up with it. Suddenly, a noise roared nearby. Rusty looked around, and as he did so, the mouse was able to pull away from his claws. When Rusty turned back, he saw it dart into the darkness among the tangled roots of a tree. Angry, Rusty gave up the hunt. He spun around, his green eyes glaring, intent on searching out the noise that had cost him his kill. The sound rattled on, becoming more familiar. Rusty blinked open his eyes. The forest had disappeared. He was inside a hot and airless kitchen, curled in his bed. Moonlight filtered through the window, casting shadows on the smooth, hard floor. The noise had been the rattle of hard, dried pellets of food as they were tipped into his dish. Rusty has been dreaming. Lifting his head, he rested his chin on the side of the bed. His collar rubbed uncomfortably around his neck. In his dream, he had felt fresh air ruffling the soft fur where the collar usually pinched. Rusty rolled onto his back, savoring the dream for a few more moments. He could still smell the mouse. It was the third time since full moon that he'd had the dream, and every time the mouse had escaped his grasp. He licked his lips. From his bed, he could smell the bland odor of his food. His owners always refilled his dish before they went to bed. The dusty smell chased away the warm scents of his dream, but the hunger rumbled on in his stomach, so Rusty stretched the sleep out of his limbs and padded across the kitchen floor to his dinner. The food felt dry and tasteless on his tongue. Rusty reluctantly swallowed one more mouthful. Then he turned away from the food dish and pushed his way through the cat flap, hoping the smell of the garden would bring back the feelings of his dream. Outside, the moon was bright. It was raining lightly. Rusty stalked the tidy garden, following the starlit gravel path, feeling the stones cold and sharp beneath his paws. He made his dirt. I was like, what the heck is dirt? But it's poop. Sorry, I just had to explain that briefly. He made his dearth beneath a large bush with glossy green leaves and heavy purple flowers. Their sickly sweet scent cloyed the damp air around him, and he curled his lip to drive the smell out of his nostrils. Afterwards, Rusty settled down on top of one of the posts in the fence that marked the limits of his garden. It was a favorite spot of his, as he could see right into the neighboring gardens as well as into the dense green forest on the other side of the garden fence. The rain had stopped. Behind him, the closed-cropped lawn was bathed in moonlight, but beyond his fence the woods were full of shadows. Rusty stretched his head forward to take a sniff of the damp air. His skin was warm and dry under his thick coat, but he could feel the weight of the raindrops that sparkled on his ginger fur. He heard his owners giving him one last call from the back door. If he went to them now, they would greet him with gentle words and caresses that welcomed him into their bed, where he would curl, purring, warm in the crook of their bent knee. But this time Rusty ignored his owners and turned his gaze back to the forest. The crisp smell of the woods had grown fresher in the rain. Suddenly, the fur on his spine prickled. Was something moving out there? Was something watching him? Rusty stared ahead, but it was impossible to see or smell anything in the dark tree-scented air. He lifted his chin boldly, stood up, and stretched, one paw gripping the corner of the fence posts. Sorry, someone was doing the laundry. The heck? He lifted his chin boldly, stood up, and stretched, one paw gripping each corner of the fence post as he straightened his legs and arched his back. He closed his eye and breathed in the smell of woods once more. It seemed to promise him something, tempting him onward into the whispering shadows. Tensing his muscles, he crouched for a moment, and then he leapt lightly down into the rough grass on the other side of the garden fence. As he landed, the bell on his collar rang out into the still night air. "Where are you off to, Rusty?" meowed a familiar voice behind him. Rusty looked up. A young black and white cat was balancing ungracefully on the fence. "Hello, Smudge," Rusty replied. "You're not going into the woods, are you?" Smudge's amber eyes were huge. "Just for a look," Rusty promised, shifting uncomfortably. "You wouldn't get me in there. It's dangerous." Smudge wrinkled his black nose with distaste. "Henry said he went into the woods once." The cat lifted his head and gestured with his nose over the rows of fences towards the garden where Henry lived. The fat old tabby never went into the woods," Rusty scoffed. "He's hardly been beyond his own garden since the trip to the vet. All he wants to do is eat and sleep." "No, really, he caught a robin there," Smudge insisted. "Well, if he did, then it was before the vet. Now he complains about the birds because they disturb his dozing." "Well, anyway," Smudge went on, ignoring the scorn in Rusty's mew, "Henry told me there are all sorts of dangerous animals out there. Huge wildcats who eat live rabbits for breakfast and sharpen their claws on old bones." "I'm only going for a look around," Rusty meowed. "I won't stay long." "Well, don't say I didn't warn you," purred Smudge. The black and white cat turned and plunged the fence back down into his own garden. Rusty sat down in the coarse grass beyond the garden fence. He gave his shoulder a nervous lick and wondered how much of Smudge's gossip was true. Suddenly, the movement of a tiny creature caught his eye. He watched it scuttle under some brambles. Instinct made him drop into a low crouch. With one soft paw after another, he drew his body forward through the undergrowth. Ears pricked, nostrils flared, eyes unblinking, he moved towards the animal. He could see it clearly now, sitting up among the barbed branches, nibbling on a large seed held between its paws. It was a mouse. Rusty rocked his hunches from side to side, preparing to leap. He held his breath in case the bell rang again. His bell rang again. Excitement coursed through him, making his heart pound. This was even better than his dreams. Then a sudden noise of cracking twigs and crunching leaves made him jump. His bell jangled treacherously, and the mouse darted away into the thick tangle of the bramble bush. Rusty stood very still and looked around. He could see the white tip of a red bushy tail trailing through a clump of tall ferns up ahead. He smelled a strong, strange stench, definitely a meat-eater, but neither cat nor dog. Distracted, Rusty forgot the mouse and watched the red tail curiously. He wanted a better look. All of Rusty's senses strained ahead as he prowled forward. Then he detected another noise. It came from behind, the sound muted and distant. He swirled his ears back to hear better. Paw steps? He wondered, but he kept his eyes fixed on the strange red fur up ahead. It continued to creep onward. It was only when the faint rustling behind him became a loud and fast-approaching leaf crackle that Rusty realized he was in danger. The creature hit him like an explosion, and Rusty was thrown sideways into a clump of nettles. Twisting and yowling, he tried to throw off the attacker that had fastened itself onto his back. It was gripping him with incredibly sharp claws. Rusty could feel spiked teeth prickling his neck. He writhed and squirmed from whisker to tail, but he couldn't free himself. For a second, he felt helpless. Then he froze. Thinking fast, he flipped over onto his back. He knew instinctively how dangerous it was to expose his soft belly, but was his only chance. He was lucky. The ploy seemed to work. He heard a huff beneath him as the breath was knocked out of his attacker. Thrashing fiercely, Rusty managed to wriggle free. Without looking back, he sprinted towards his home. Behind him, a rush of paw steps told Rusty his attacker was giving chase. Even though the pain from his scratches stung beneath his fur, Rusty decided he would rather turn and fight than let himself be jumped on again. He skidded to a stop, spun around, and faced his pursuer. It was another kitten, with a thick coat of shaggy gray fur, strong legs, and a broad face. In a heartbeat, Rusty smelled that it was a tom, and sensed the power in the sturdy shoulders underneath the soft coat. Then the kitten crashed into Rusty at full pelt. Taken by surprise by Rusty's turnabout, it fell back into a dazed heap. The impact knocked the breath out of Rusty, and he staggered. He quickly found his footing and arched his back, puffing out his orange fur, ready to spring onto the other kitten. But his attacker simply sat up and began to lick a forepaw, all signs of aggression gone. Rusty felt strangely disappointed. Every part of him was tense, ready for battle. "Hey there, kitty pet," meowed the gray tom cheerily. "You put up quite a fight for a tame kitty." Rusty remained on tiptoe for a second, wondering whether to attack anyway. Then he remembered the strength he felt in his paws. When he had pinned him to the ground, he dropped onto his pads, loosened his muscles, and let his spine unbent. "And I'll fight you again if I have to," he growled. "I'm Graypaw, by the way," the gray kitten went on, ignoring Rusty's threat. "I'm training to be a ThunderClan warrior. ThunderClan warrior." Rusty remained silent. He didn't understand what this gray what's-it was meowing about, but he sensed the threat had passed. He hid his confusion by leaning down to lick his ruffled chest. "What's a kitty pet like you doing out in the woods? Don't you know it's dangerous?" asked Graypaw. "If you're the most dangerous thing in the wood has to offer, then I think I can handle it," Rusty bluffed. Graypaw looked up at him for a moment, narrowing his big yellow eyes. "Oh, I'm far from the most dangerous. If I were even half a warrior, I'd given an intruder like you some real wounds to think about." Rusty felt a thrill of fear at those ominous words. What did he mean by intruder? "Anyway," meowed Graypaw, using his sharp teeth to tug a clump of grass from between his claws, "I didn't think it was worth hurting you. You're obviously not from the other clans." "Other clans?" Rusty echoed, confused. Graypaw let an impatient hiss. "You must have heard of the 4 warrior clans that hunt around here. I belong to ThunderClan. The other clans are always trying to steal prey from our territory, especially Shadow Clan. They're so fierce, they would have ripped you to shreds, no question asked." Graypaw paused to spit angrily, then continued. "They come to take prey that's rightfully ours. It's the job of ThunderClan warriors to keep them out of territory. When I finish my training, I'll be so dangerous, I'll have the other clans shaking in their flea-bitten skins. They won't dare come near us then." Rusty narrowed his eyes. This must be one of the wildcats Smudge had warned him about, living rough in the woods, hunting and fighting each other for every last scrap of food. Yet Rusty didn't feel scared. In fact, it was hard not to admire the confidence this confident kitten. I lost my place. I looked at chat and I've lost my place. I see. "So, you're not a warrior yet?" he asked. "Why, did you think I was?" Graypaw purred proudly. Then he shook his wide, furry head. "I won't be a real warrior for ages. I have to go through the training first. Kids have to be 6 moons old before they even begin training. Tonight is my first night out as an apprentice." "Why don't you find yourself an owner with a nice cozy house instead? Your life would be much easier," Rusty meowed. There are plenty of house folks who'd take in a kitten like you. All you have to do is sit where they can see you and look hungry for a couple days. And they'd feed me pellets that look like rabbit droppings and soft slop? Graypaw interrupted. No way! I can't think of anything worse than being a kitty pet. They're nothing but two-legged toys, eating stuff that doesn't look like food, making dirt in a box of gravel, sticking their noses outside only when the two legs allow them. That's no life. Out here it's wild. It's free. We come and go as we please. He finished his speech with a proud spit, then meowed mischievously. Until you've tasted a fresh-killed mouse, you haven't lived. Have you ever tasted mouse? No, Rusty admitted, a little defensive. Not yet. I guess you'll never understand, Graypaw sighed. You weren't born wild. It makes a difference. You need to be born with warrior blood in your veins or feel the wind in your whiskers. Kitties born into two-legged nests never feel the same way. Rusty remembered the way he felt in his dream. That's not true, he meowed indignantly. Graypaw did not reply. He had suddenly stiffened mid-lick, one paw still raised, and sniffed the air. I smell cats from my clan, he hissed. You should go. They won't be pleased to find you hunting in our territory. Rusty looked around, wondering how Graypaw knew any cat was approaching. He couldn't smell anything different on the leaf-scented breeze, but his fur stood on an end, the note of urgency in Graypaw's voice. Quick! Hissed Graypaw again. Run! Rusty prepared to spring into the bushes, not knowing which way it was safe to jump. He was too late. A voice meowed from behind him, firm and menacingly. What's going on here? Rusty turned to see a large gray she-cat strolling majestically out from the undergrowth. She was magnificent. White hair streaked her muscle, and an ugly scar parted the fur across her shoulders. But her smooth gray coat shone like silver in the moonlight. Blue Star! Beside her, Rusty crouched down and narrowed his eyes. He crouched even lower when a second cat, a handsome golden tabby, followed the gray into the clearing. You shouldn't go so near two-leg place, Graypaw, growled the golden tabby angrily, narrowing his green eyes. I know, Lionheart. I'm sorry. Graypaw looked down at his paws. Rusty copied Graypaw and crouched low on the forest floor, his ears twitching nervously. These cats had an air of strength he had never seen in any of his garden friends. Maybe what Smudge had warned him about was true. Who is this? Asked the she-cat. Rusty flinched as she turned her gaze on him. Her piercing blue eyes made him feel even more vulnerable. He is no threat, meowed Graypaw quickly. He is not a clan warrior, just a two-leg pet from beyond our territories. Just a two-leg pet! The words inflamed Rusty, but he held his tongue. The warning look in Blue Star's stare told him that she had observed the anger in his eyes, and he looked away. This is Blue Star. She's the leader of my clan. Graypaw hissed to Rusty under his breath, and Lionheart, he's my mentor, which means he is training me to be a warrior. Thank you for the introduction, Graypaw, meowed Lionheart coolly. Blue Star was still staring at Rusty. You fight well for a two-leg pet, she meowed. Rusty and Graypaw exchanged confused glances. How could she know? We have been watching you both, Blue Star went on, as if she read their thoughts. We wondered how you would deal with an intruder, Graypaw. You attacked him bravely. Graypaw looked pleased at Blue Star's praise. Sit up now, both of you. Blue Star looked at Rusty. You too, kitty pet. He sat up immediately and held Blue Star's gaze evenly as she addressed him. You reacted well to the attack, kitty pet. Graypaw is stronger than you, and you used your wits to defend yourself. And you turned to face him when he chased you. I've not seen a kitty pet do that before. Rusty managed to nod his thanks, taken aback by such unexpected praise. His next words would surprise him even more. I've been wondering how you would perform out here, beyond the two-leg place. We patrol this border frequently, so I've often seen you sitting on your boundary, staring out into the forest. And now, at last, you've dared to place your paws here. Blue Star stared at Rusty thoughtfully. You do seem to have a natural hunting ability, sharp eyes. You would have caught that mouse if you had not hesitated so long. Really? Rusty stammered. Lionheart spoke now. His deep meow was respectful but insistent. Blue Star, this is a kitty pet. He should not be hunting in ThunderClan territory. Send him home to his 2 legs. Rusty prickled at Lionheart's dismissive words. Send me home, he meowed impatiently. Blue Star's word had made him glow with pride. She had noticed him. She had been impressed by him. But I've only come here to hunt for a mouse or 2. I'm sure there's enough to go around. Blue Star had turned her head to acknowledge Lionheart's words. Now her gaze snapped back to Rusty. Her blue eyes were blazing with anger. There's never enough to go around, she spat. If you didn't live such a soft, overfed life, you would know that. Rusty was confused by Blue Star's sudden anger, but one glance at the horrified look on Graypaw's face was enough to tell him he had spoken too freely. Lionheart stepped to his leader's side. Both warriors loomed over him now. Rusty looked into Blue Star's threatening stare, and his pride dissolved. These were not cozy fireside cats he was dealing with. They were mean, hungry cats who were probably going to finish what Graypaw had started. Dun dun dun! Chapter 2. We did it! What happened to the Titanic redeem? No sound redeems. Yeah! Why is this so intense? It's warrior cats. It's always intense. Welcome back, Moo Moo. We just finished chapter 1. We're on to chapter 2. We're already 23 pages in. Okay, I need to quickly run to the bathroom because I was a silly goose and did not go before stream. I was too busy trying to fix my chat box. Yes, I will hydrate and go to the bathroom. You like my cat cosplay? Okay, I'll be right back. You heard the scream? Oh my god, it was my sister. My sister has been using the laundry room that's that's connected to my room. Like, we have to go through the laundry room to get into my room. And she's doing laundry. Did you jump scare her? Yeah, I opened the door while she was putting things in the laundry, and she had just gotten out of the shower, so she was wrapped up in a towel. So I opened the door, and then she screeched. All right. So I apologize if you do hear like thumping in the background. That's her being evil and doing laundry. Okay, we're on chapter 2. I'm impressed how fast we're going. I always forget that Warrior Cats it's meant for kids, one. It's easy to read, two. It's not very long. Like, we're on page 23 out of 160. So it's not that bad. Okay, chapter 2. Well, hissed Blue Star, her face only a mouse length from his now. Lionheart remained silent as he towered over Rusty. He flattened his ears and crouched under the golden warrior's cold stare. His fur prickled uncomfortably. I'm no threat to your clan, he mewed, looking down at his trembling paws. You threaten our clan when you take our food, yowled Blue Star. You have plenty of food in your own two-leg nest already. You come here only to hunt for sport, but we hunt to survive. The truth of the warrior queen's words pierced Rusty like a blackthorn, and he suddenly understood her anger. He stopped trembling, sat up, and straightened his ears. He raised his eyes to meet hers. I had not thought of it that way before. I'm sorry, he meowed solemnly. I will not hunt here again. Blue Star let her hackles fall and signaled to Lionheart to step back. You are unusual, kitty pet, Rusty, she meowed. Graypaw's sigh of relief made Rusty's ear twitch. He heard the approval in Blue Star's voice and noticed as she swapped a meaningful glance with Lionheart. The look made him curious. What flashed between the two warriors? Quietly, he asked, Is survival here really so hard? Our territory covers only part of the forest, answered Blue Star. We compete with other clans for what we have, and this year, late New Leaf means prey is scarce. Is your clan very big? Rusty meowed, his eyes wide. Big enough, replied Blue Star. Our territory can support us, but there's no prey left over. Are you all warriors, then? Rusty mewed. Blue Star's guarded answers were just making him more and more curious. Lionheart answered him. Some are warriors. Some are too young or too old or too busy caring for kids to hunt. And you all live and share prey together? Rusty murmured in awe, thinking a little guilty of his own easy, selfish life. Blue Star looked again at Lionheart. The golden tabby stared back at her steadily. At last she returned her gaze to Rusty and meowed. Perhaps you should find out these things for yourself. Would you like to join ThunderClan? I've lost my spot. Hold on. Rusty was so surprised he couldn't speak. Blue Star went on. If you did, you would train with Graypaw to become a clan warrior. But kitty pets can't be warriors, Graypaw blurted out. They don't have warrior blood. A sad look clouded Blue Star's eyes. Warrior blood, she echoed with a sigh. Too much of that has been spilled lately. Blue Star fell silent and Lionheart meowed. Blue Star is only offering you training, young kid. There is no guarantee you will become a full warrior. It might prove too difficult for you. After all, you are used to a comfortable life. Rusty was stung by Lionheart's words. He swung his head around to face the golden tabby. Why offer me the chance, then? But it was Blue Star who answered. You are right to question our motive, young one. The fact is, ThunderClan needs more warriors. Understand that Blue Star does not make this offer lightly, warned Lionheart. If you wish to train with us, we will have to take you into our clan. You must either live with us and respect our ways, or return to your two-leg place and never come back. You cannot live with a paw in each world. A cool breeze stirred the undergrowth, ruffling Rusty's fur. He shivered, not with the cold, but with excitement at the incredible possibilities opening up in front of him. Are you wondering if it's worth giving up your comfortable kitty pet life? Asked Blue Star gently. But do you realize the price you will pay for your warmth and food? Rusty looked at her, puzzled. Surely his encounter with these cats had proved him just how easy and luxurious his life was. I can tell that you are still a Tom, Bluestar added, despite the two-leg stench that clings on your fur. What do you mean, still a Tom? You've not yet been taken by the two-legs to see the cutter, meowed Bluestar gravely. You would be very different then. Not quite so keen to fight a clan cat, I suspect. Rusty was confused. He suddenly thought of Henry, who had been fat and lazy since his visit at the vet. Was that what Bluestar meant by the cutter? The clan may not be able to offer you such easy food or warmth, continued Bluestar. In the season of leaf bare, nights in the forest can be cruel. The clan will demand great loyalty and hard work. You will be expected to protect the clan with your life if necessary. There are many mouths to feed, but the rewards are great. You will remain a Tom. You will be trained in the ways of the wild. You will learn what it is to be a real cat. The strength and the fellowship of the clan will always be with you, even when you hunt alone. Rusty's head reeled. Bluestar seemed to be offering him the life he had lived so many times and so tantalizingly in his dreams. But could he live like that for real? Lionheart interrupted his thoughts. Come, Bluestar, let's not waste any more time here. We must be ready to join the other patrol at Moon High. Tigerclaw will wonder what has become of us. He stood up and flicked his tail expectantly. Wait, Rusty meowed. Can I think about your offer? Bluestar looked at him for a long moment and nodded. Lionheart will be here tomorrow at Sun High, she told him. Give him your answer then. Bluestar murmured a low signal, and in a single movement, the three cats turned and disappeared into the undergrowth. Rusty blinked. He stared, excited, uncertain, up past the ferns that encircled him, through the canopy of leaves, to the stars that glittered in the clear sky. The scent of the clan cat still hung heavy in the evening air, and as Rusty turned and headed for home, he felt a strange sensation inside him, tugging him back into the depths of the forest. His fur prickled deliciously in the light wind. The rustling leaves seemed to whisper his name into the shadows. Chapter 3. Chapters are very fast. Also, welcome! Thank you for the follow! Bowl of Maltesers and a milkshake. You're amazing. In fact, I joined to a story reading stream. Oh, because you're writing yourself? I love writing. I studied writing. Okay, Chapter 3. That morning, as Rusty slept up his night's wanderings, the mouse dream came again, even more vivid than before. Free of his collar, beneath the moon, he stalked the timid creature, but this time he was aware of being watched. Shining from the shadows of the forest, he saw dozens of yellow eyes. The clan cats had entered his dream world. Rusty woke, blinking in the bright sunshine that was streaming across the kitchen floor. His fur felt heavy and thick with warmth. His food bowl had been topped up and his water bowl rinsed out and filled with bitter-tasting two-leg water. Rusty preferred drinking from puddles outside, but when it was hot, or he was very thirsty, he had to admit it was easier to lap up the water indoors. Could he really abandon his comfortable life? He ate, then pushed his way out from the cat flap into the garden. The day promised to be warm, and the garden was heavy with the smell of early blossoms. Hello, Rusty, meowed a voice from the fence. It was Smudge. You should have been awake an hour ago. The baby sparrows were out stretching their wings. Did you catch any? Rusty asked. Smudge yawned and licked his nose. Couldn't be bothered. I'd already eaten enough at home. Anyway, why weren't you out earlier? Yesterday you were complaining about Henry sleeping his time away, and today you're not much better yourself. Rusty sat down in the cool earth beside the fence and curled his tail neatly over his front paws. I was in the woods last night, he reminded his friend. At once he felt the blood stir in his veins and his fur stiffen. Smudge looked down at him, his eyes wide. Oh, yes, I forgot. How was it? Did you catch anything? Or did anything catch you? Rusty paused, not sure how to tell his old friend what had happened. I met some wild cats, he began. What? Smudge was clearly shocked. Did you get in a fight? Sort of. Rusty could feel the energy surging through his body again as he recalled the strength and power of the clan cast. Were you hurt? What happened? Smudge prompted him eagerly. There were 3 of them, bigger and stronger than any of us. And you fought all 3 of them! Smudge interrupted, his tail twitching with excitement. No! Musty meowed hastily. Just the youngest one. The other 2 came later. How come they didn't shred you to pieces? They just warned me to leave their territory, but then... Rusty hesitated. What? Mewed Smudge impatiently. They asked me to join their clan. Smudge's whiskers quivered disbelievingly. They did, Rusty insisted. Why would they do that? I don't know, Rusty admitted. I think they needed extra paws in their clan. Sounds a bit odd to me, Smudge meowed doubtfully. I wouldn't trust them if I were you. Rusty looked at Smudge. His black and white friend had never shown any interest in venturing into the woods. He was perfectly content living with his housefolk. He would never understand the restless longing that Rusty's dreams stirred in him night after night. But I do trust them, Rusty purred softly. And I've made up my mind. I'm going to join them. Smudge scrambled down from the fence and stood in front of Rusty. Please don't go, Rusty, he meowed in alarm. I might never see you again. Rusty nudged him affectionately with his head. Don't worry, my housefolk will get another cat. You'll get on with him fine. You'll get along with everyone. But it won't be the same, Smudge wailed. Rusty twitched his tail impatiently. That's just the point. If I stay around here till they take me to the cutter, I won't be the same either. Smudge looked puzzled. The cutter, he echoed. The vet, Rusty explained. To be altered, like Henry was. Smudge shrugged and stared down at his paws. But Henry's all right, he mumbled. I mean, I know he's a bit lazier now, but he's not unhappy. We could still have fun. Rusty felt his heart fill with sadness at the thought of leaving his friend. I'm sorry, Smudge. I'll miss you, but I have to go. Smudge didn't reply, but stepped forward to gently touch noses with Rusty. Fair enough. Can see I can't stop you, but at least let's spend one more morning together. Rusty found himself enjoying the morning even more than usual, visiting in his old haunts with Smudge, sharing words with the cats he had grown up with. Every one of his senses felt supercharged, as if he were poised before a huge jump. As Sunhigh approached, Rusty grew more and more impatient to see if Lionheart would really be waiting for him. The idle buzz of meows from his old friend seemed to fade into the background as all his senses strained into the woods. Rusty jumped down from his garden fence for one last time and crept into the woods. He had said his goodbyes to Smudge. Now all his thoughts were focused on the forest and the cats who lived in it. As he approached the spot where he had met the clan cats the night before, he sat down and tasted the air. Tall trees shielded the ground from the midday sunshine, making it comfortably cool. Here and there, a patch of sunlight shone through a gap in the leaves and lit up the forest floor. Rusty could smell the same cat scent as last night, but he had no idea whether it was old or new. He lifted his head and sniffed uncertainly. You have a lot to learn, meowed a deep voice. Even the tiniest clan kit knows when another cat is nearby. Rusty saw a pair of green eyes glinting from beneath a bramble bush. Now he recognized the scent. It was Lionheart. Can you tell if I am alone? Asked the golden tabby, stepping into the light. Hastily, Rusty sniffed again. The scents of Bluestar and Greypaw were still there, but not as strong as the previous night. Hesitantly, he meowed. Bluestar and Greypaw aren't with you this time. That's right, meowed Lionheart, but someone else is. Rusty stiffened as the second clan cat strode into the clearing. This is Whitestorm, purred Lionheart, one of the Thunderclad's senior warriors. Rusty looked at the Tom and felt his spine tinge with cold fear. Was this a trap? Long-bodied and muscular, Whitestorm stood in front of Rusty and gazed down at him. His white coat was thick and unmarked, and his eyes were the yellow of sun-baked sand. Rusty flattened his ears warily and tensed his muscles in preparation for a fight. Relax, before your fear scent brings unwanted attention, growled Lionheart. We are here only to take you to our camp. Rusty sat very still, hardly daring to breathe, as Whitestorm stretched his nose forward and gave him a curious sniff. Hello, young... How should I give him his voice? Hello, young one. Hello. Hello. No. Hello, young one, murmured the white cat. I've heard a lot about you. Rusty dipped his head in greeting. Come, We can speak more once we are at camp, ordered Lionheart, and, without pausing, he and Whitestrom leaped away into the undergrowth. Rusty jumped to his paws and followed as quickly as he could. The two warriors made no allowances for Rusty as they sped through the forest, and before long, he was struggling to keep up. Their pace barely slowed as they led him over fallen trees that they cleared in a single leap, but which Rusty had to scramble over paw by paw. They passed through sharply fragrant pine trees, where they had to jump across deep gullies churned up by a two-legged tree-eater. From the safety of his garden fence, Rusty had often heard it roaring and snarling in the distance. One gully was too wide to jump, half filled with slimy, foul-smelling water. The clan cats waded through without hesitating. Rusty had never put a paw in water before, but he was determined not to show any signs of weakness, so he narrowed his eyes and followed, trying to ignore the uncomfortable wetness that soaked his belly fur. At last, Lionheart and Whitestrom paused. Rusty skidded to a halt behind them as he stood panting, while the two warriors stepped onto a rock that rested on the edge of a small ravine. "We are very close to our camp now," meowed Lionheart. Rusty strained to see any signs of life, moving leaves, a glimpse of fur among the bushes below, but his eyes saw nothing except the same undergrowth that covered the rest of the forest floor. "Use your nose. You must be able to scent it," hissed Whitestrom impatiently. Rusty closed his eyes and sniffed. Whitestrom was right. The scents here were very different from the cat scent he was used to. The air smelled stronger, speaking of many, many different cats. He nodded thoughtfully and announced, "I can smell cats!" Lionheart and Whitestrom exchanged amused looks. There will be a time if you are accepted into the clan when you will know each cat scent by name," Lionheart meowed. "Follow me." He led the way nimbly down the boulders to the bottom of the ravine and pushed his way through a thick pack of growth. Rusty followed, and Whitestrom took up the rear. As his sides scraped against the prickly gorse, Rusty looked down and noticed that the grass beneath his paws was flattened into a broad, strong-smelling track. This must be the main entrance into the camp, he thought. Beyond the gorse, a clearing opened up. The ground at the center was bare, hard earth, shaped by many generations of paw steps. This camp had been here a long time. The clearing was dappled by sunshine, and the air felt warm and still. Rusty looked around, his eyes wide. There were cats everywhere, sitting alone or in groups, sharing food or purring quietly as they groomed each other. Just after sun that high, when the day is hottest, it is time for sharing tongues, Lionheart explained. "Sharing tongues?" Rusty echoed. "Clan cats always spend time grooming each other and sharing the news of the day," Whitestrom told him. "We call it sharing tongues. It is a custom that binds the members of the clan together." The cats had obviously smelled Rusty's foreign scent, for heads began to turn and stare curiously in his direction. Suddenly shy of meeting any cat's gaze directly, Rusty looked around the clearing. It was edged with thick grass, dotted with tree stumps and a fallen tree. A thick curtain of ferns and gorse shielded the camp from the rest of the woods. "Over there," meowed Lionheart, flicking his tail towards an impenetrable-looking tangle of brambles, "is the nursery, where the kits are cared for." Rusty swerved his ears towards the bushes. He couldn't see through the knot of prickly branches, but he could hear the mewling of several kittens from somewhere inside. As he watched, the ginger she-cat squirmed out through the small gap in front. That must be one of the queens, Rusty thought. A tabby queen with distinctive black markings appeared around the bramble bush. The two she-cats exchanged a friendly lick between the ears before the tabby slipped inside the nursery, murmuring to the squealing kits. "The care of our kits is shared by all the queens," meowed Lionheart. "All cats serve the clan. Loyalty to the clan is the first law in the warrior code, a lesson you must learn quickly if you wish to stay with us." "Here comes Blue Star," meowed Whitestrom, sniffing the air. Rusty sniffed the air too, and was pleased that he could be able to recognize the scent of the gray she-cat a moment before she appeared from the shadow of a large boulder that lay beside them at the head of the clearing. "He came," Blue Star purred, addressing the warriors. Whitestrom replied. Lionheart was convinced he would not. Rusty noticed the tip of Blue Star's tail twitch impatiently. "Well, what do you think of him?" she asked. "He kept up well on the journey on the return journey, despite his punny size, Whitestorm admitted. He certainly seems strong for a kitty pet. So it's agreed. Bluestar looked at Lionheart and Whitestorm. Both cats nodded. Then I shall announce his arrival to the clan. Bluestar leaped up onto the boulder and yowled. Let all those cats old enough to catch their own play join here beneath the high rock for a clan meeting. Her clear call brought all cats trotting towards her, emerging like liquid shadows from the edges of the clearing. Rusty stayed where he was, flanked by Lionheart and Whitestorm. The other cats settled themselves below the high rock and looked expectantly up at their leader. Rusty felt a rush of relief as he recognized Greypaw's thick gray fur among the cats. Beside him sat a young tortoiseshell queen, her black-tipped tail tucked neatly over small white paws. A large dark gray tabby crouched behind them, the black stripes on his fur looking like shadows on a moonlit forest floor. When the cats were still, Bluestar spoke. ThunderClan needs more warriors, she began. Never before have we had so few apprentices in training. It has been decided that ThunderClan will take in an outsider to train as a warrior. Rusty heard indignant mutterings erupt among the clan cats, but Bluestar silenced them with a firm yowl. I have found a cat who is willing to become an apprentice of ThunderClan. Lucky to become an apprentice, caterwauled a loud voice above the ripple of shock that spread through the cats. Rusty craned his neck and saw a pale tabby cat standing up and glaring defiantly at the leader. Bluestar ignored the tabby and addressed all of her clan. Lionheart and Whitestorm have met this young cat, and they agree with me that we should train him with the other apprentices. Rusty looked up at Lionheart and then back at the clan, to find all eyes were now on him. His fur prickled and he swallowed nervously. There was silence for a moment. Rusty was sure they must all be able to hear his heart pulsing and smell his fear scent. Now a deafening crescendo of caterwaulings rose from the crowd. Where does he come from? Which clan does he belong to? What a strange scent he carries. That's not the scent of any clan I know. Then one yowl in particular sounded above all the rest. Look at his collar. He's a kitty pet. It was a pale tabby again. Once a kitty pet, always a kitty pet. This clan needs wild-born warriors to fend it, not another soft mouth to feed. Lionheart bent down and hissed into Rusty's ear. That tabby is Longtail. He smells your fear. They all do. You must prove to him and the other cats that your fear won't hold you back. But Rusty couldn't move. How could he ever prove to these fierce cats that he wasn't just a kitty pet? The tabby continued to jeer at him. Your collar is the mark of 2 legs, and that noisy jingling will make you a poor hunter at best. At worst, it will bring the 2 legs to our territory looking for the poor lost kitty pet who fills the woods with his pitiful thinking. All the cats howled in agreement. Longtail went on, well aware that he had the support of his audience. The noise of your treacherous bell will alert our enemies, even if your 2-legged stench doesn't. Lionheart hissed into Rusty's ear once more. Do you back down from a challenge? Rusty still did not move, but this time he was trying to pinpoint Longtail's position. There he was, just behind a dusky brown queen. Rusty flattened his ears, narrowed his eyes, and, hissing, leaped through the startled cats to fling himself onto his tormentor. Longtail was completely unprepared for Rusty's attack. He staggered sideways, losing his footing on the hard-baked earth. Filled with rage and desperate to prove himself, Rusty dug his claws deep into the tabby cat's fur and sank his teeth. No subtle rituals of swiping and boxing preceded this fight. The 2 cats were locked in a screaming, withering tussle that flipped and somersaulted around the clearing at the heart of the camp. The other cats had to spring out of the way to avoid the screeching and whirlwind of fur. As Rusty scratched and struggled, he was suddenly aware that he felt no fear, only exhilaration. Through the roaring of blood in his ears, he could hear the cats around them wailing with excitement. Then, Rusty felt his collar tighten around his neck. Longtail had gripped it between his teeth and was tugging, and tugging hard. Rusty felt a terrible pressure at his throat. Unable to breathe, he started to panic. He withered and twisted, but each movement only made the pressure worse. Retching and gulping for air, he summoned up all his strength and tried to pull away from Longtail's grip. And suddenly, with a loud snap, he was free. Longtail tumbled away from him. Rusty scrambled to his paws and looked around. Longtail was crouching 3 tail lengths away and dangling from Longtail's mouth. Rusty saw his collar, mangled and broken. At once, Blue Star leaped down from the high rock and silenced the noisy crowd with a thunderous caterwaul. Rusty and Longtail remained fixed to the spot, gasping for breath. Clumps of fur hung from their ruffled coats. Rusty could feel a cat stinging above his eye. Longtail's left ear was badly torn, and blood dripped down his lean shoulders onto the dusty ground. They stared at each other, their hostility not yet spent. Blue Star stepped forward and took the collar from Longtail. She placed it on the ground in front of her and meowed. The newcomer has lost his 2-leg collar in a battle for his honor. StarClan has spoken its approval. This cat has been released from the hold of its 2-legs owners and is free to join ThunderClan as an apprentice. Rusty looked at Blue Star and solemnly nodded his acceptance. He stood up and stepped forward into a shaft of sunshine, welcoming the warmth of his sore muscles. The pool of light blazed bright on his orange pelt, making his fur glow. Rusty lifted his head proudly and looked upon the cats that surrounded him. This time no cat argued or jeered. He shown himself to be a worthy opponent in battle. Blue Star approached Rusty and placed the shredded collar on the ground in front of him. She touched his ear gently with her nose. "You look like a brand of fire in the sunlight," she murmured. Her eyes flashed briefly, as if her words had more meaning for her than Rusty knew. "You have fought well." Then she turned to the clan and announced, "From this day forward, until he has earned his warrior name, this apprentice will be called Firepaw, in honor of his flame-colored coat." She stepped back and, with the other cats, waited silently for his next move. Without hesitating, Rusty turned and kicked dust and grass over his collar, as though burying his dirt. Longtail growled and limped out of the clearing towards a fern-shaded corner. Cats split into groups, murmuring to each other excitedly, "Hey, Firepaw!" Rusty heard Greypaw's friendly voice behind him. "Firepaw!" A thrill of pride surged through him at the sound of his new name. He turned to greet the Grey apprentice with a welcoming sniff. "Great fight, Firepaw," meowed Greypaw, "especially for a kitty pet. Longtail has a warrior, although he only finished his training 2 moons ago. That scar you left on his ear won't let him forget you in a hurry. You spoiled his good looks, that's for sure." "Thanks, Greypaw," Firepaw replied. "He put up quite a fight, though." He licked his front paw and began to wipe clean the deep scratch that stung above his eye. As he watched, he heard his new name again, echoing among the mews of cats. "Firepaw!" "Hey, Firepaw." "Welcome, young Firepaw." Firepaw closed his eyes for a moment and let the voices wash over him. "Good name, too," Greypaw meowed approvingly, jolting him awake. Firepaw looked around. Where did Longtail creep off to? "I think he was heading towards Spotted Leaf's den." Greypaw tipped his head toward the fern-enclosed corner Longtail had disappeared into. "She's our medicine cat, not bad looking either, younger and a lot prettier than Mo." A low yowl next to the 2 cats stopped Greypaw mid-speech. They both turned, and Firepaw recognized the powerful Grey Tabby who had sat behind Greypaw earlier. "Darkstrat," mewed Greypaw, dipping his head respectfully. The sleek Tom looked at Firepaw for a moment. "Lucky your collar snapped when it did. Longtail is a young warrior, but I can't imagine him being beaten by a kitty pet." He spat the words "kitty pet" scornfully, then turned and stalked off. "Now Greystrap," Greypaw hissed to Firepaw under his breath, "is neither young nor pretty." Firepaw was about to agree with his new friend when he was interrupted by a warning yowl from an old gray cat sitting at the edge of the clearing. Small ear smells trouble," Greypaw meowed, immediately alert. Firepaw barely had time to look around before a young crest crashed through the bushes and into the camp. He was skinny and, apart from the white tip on his long, thin tail, jet black from head to toe. Greypaw gasped. "That's Ravenpaw. Why is he alone? Where's Tigerclaw?" Firepaw looked at Ravenpaw staggering across the floor of the clearing. He was panting heavily, his coat was ruffled and dusty, and his eyes were wild with fear. Who are Ravenpaw and Tigerclaw?" Firepaw whispered to Greypaw as several other cats raced past him to greet the new arrival. "Ravenpaw's an apprentice. Tigerclaw's Tiger Claw's mentor. Great Paw explained quickly. Ravenpaw went out with Tiger Claw and Red Tail at sunrise on a mission against River Clan. The lucky furball. Red Tail? Firepaw echoed, thoroughly confused by all the names. Blue Star's deputy, hissed Greypaw. But why on earth has Ravenpaw come back alone? He added to himself. He lifted his head to listen as Blue Star stepped forward. Ravenpaw? The she-cat spoke calmly, but a look of worry clouded her blue eyes. The other cats drew back, curling their lips with anxiety. What has happened? Blue Star jumped onto the high rock and looked down at the trembling cat. Speak, Ravenpaw! Ravenpaw was still struggling for breath, and his sides heaved fitfully while the dust around him turned red with blood. But he still managed to scramble up to the high rock and stand beside Blue Star. He turned to the crowd of eager faces that surround him and summoned enough breath to declare, Red Tail is dead! Dun, 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 da, 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 da. The deputy is dead, guys! That was a longer chapter. Oh my god. Okay, let's see. I self-tried gangster to which I have yet. Wait. I'm scrolling too fast. Hello, bad. This video that I have playing that makes the nature sounds, it repeats every hour and it pauses briefly at the repeat. If I was Rusty's owner, I would be sobbing when he left. Yeah. Maybe we'll get some people that's going to help narrate a voice story. That'd be interesting. Oh, it would be. Good luck, Joshi. Good luck. Whew. We're on page 33 now. From this point on, there is non-stop drama. Non-stop drama. The Red Tail is dead blow is the first of many. How many pages are there? 160. Oh man. Look at this. Are you seeing this? Look at how bad this chat is. I have to wait 7 more days. Oh man, how many pages are there? That's out of order. Shake my head. Okay. It low-key broke earlier too. What does that mean? What does what mean? The chat broke? My mouth is getting dry. Welcome to the Popcorn Pocket! Delta! You came just in time for me to actually say welcome. Usually I'm reading this stream, so I don't get to welcome people. Didn't I say something's out of... Oh, the chat! You see at the top corner? The chat was posting your guys' messages out of order. Up in the corner. What my ear is touching. Ooh. Ooh. Okay. We're going on. Chapter 4. The drama begins. The thing about Warriors is the reason why it's so addictive is like they really grip you at the end of every single chapter. It's like, oh my god, the new twist. Okay. Chapter 4. Shocked yowls rose from the clan cats and echoed throughout the forest. Ravenpaw staggered slightly. His right foreleg glistened, wet with blood that flowed from a deep gash on his shoulder. We met 5 River Clan warriors beside the stream, not far from Shining Rocks, he went on shakily. Oakheart was among them. Oakheart! Greypaw gasped beside Firepaw. He's the deputy of River Clan. He's one of the greatest warriors in the forest. Lucky Ravenpaw. Wish it could have been me. I'd have really... Greypaw was silenced by a fierce glance from an old Grey Tom who had first sensed Greypaw's return. Firepaw turned his attention back to Ravenpaw. Redtail warned Oakheart to keep his hunting parties out of ThunderClan territory. He said the next River Clan warrior to be caught in ThunderClan territory would be killed. But Oakheart would not back down. He said his clan had to be fed whatever we threatened. Ravenpaw paused to wheeze for breath. His wound was still bleeding heavily, and he stood awkwardly to keep the weight off his shoulder. That's when the River Clan cats attacked. It was hard to see what was happening. The fighting was vicious. I saw Oakheart and Redtail pinned to the ground. But then Redtail... Suddenly, Ravenpaw's eyes rolled into his head and he lurched sideways, half scrambling, half falling. He slithered off a high rock and collapsed on the ground below. Dang. A ginger queen bounded towards him and crouched at his side. She licked his cheek briefly, then called out, Spotted Leaf! Out of the fern-shaded corner trotted a pretty tortoise shell Firepaw had noticed sitting beside Greypaw earlier. She hurried over to Ravenpaw and mewed for the queen to stand back. Then she used her small pink nose to roll the apprentice over so that she could take a good look at the wound. She glanced up and meowed. It's all right, Golden Flower. His wounds aren't fatal, but I'll need to fetch some cobwebs to stop the bleeding. As Spotted Leaf sprinted back to her den, the hushed silence in the clearing was broken by a mournful howl. All eyes turned to the direction it had come from. A massive, dark brown tabby staggered through the gorse tunnel. Between his sharp teeth, the warrior held not prey, but a lifeless body of another cat. He dragged the tattered creature into the center of the clearing. Firepaw craned his neck and glimpsed a flash of bright ginger tail hanging limply in the dust. Shock rippled through the clan like a chilly breeze. Beside Firepaw, Greypaw dropped into a crouch as grief swept over him. Redtail! How did this happen, Tiger Claw? Demanded Blue Star from her position on the high rock. Tiger Claw let the scruff of Redtail's neck fall from his mouth. He looked steadily at Blue Star. He died with honor, struck down by Oakheart. I couldn't save him, but I managed to take Oakheart's life while he was still gloating over his victory. Tiger Claw's voice was strong and deep. Redtail's death was not in vain, for I doubt we'll see River Clan hunters in our territory again. Firepaw glanced at Greypaw. The apprentice's eyes were dark with sadness. After a moment's pause, several of the cats moved forward to lick Redtail's bedraggled fur. As they groomed, they purred hushed praise to the dead warrior. Firepaw whispered to Greypaw's ear, What are they doing? Greypaw didn't take his eyes off the dead cat as he replied, His spirit may have left to join StarClan, but the clan will share tongues with Redtail one last time. StarClan? Firepaw echoed. It's the tribe of heavenly warriors that watches over all the clans. You can see them in Silverpelt. Firepaw looked confused, so Greypaw explained. Silverpelt is that thick band of stars you see each night stretching across the sky. Each star is a Star Clan warrior. Redtail will be among them tonight. Firepaw nodded, and Greypaw stepped forward to share tongues with his dead deputy. Blue Star had remained silent while the first cats came to pay their respects to Redtail. Now she leaped down from the high rock and walked slowly towards Redtail's body. The other cats retreated and watched as their leader crouched down to share tongues with their old comrade one last time. When she had finished, she raised her head and spoke. Her voice was low and thick with grief, and the clan listened in silence. Redtail was a brave warrior. His loyalty to ThunderClan could never be doubted. I always relied on his judgment, for it bore witness to the needs of the clan, and was never swayed by self-interest or pride. He would have made a fine leader. Then she lowered herself onto her belly, her head bowed, her paws stretched neatly before her, and silently she grieved for a lost friend. Several other cats came and lay down beside her. Their bowed heads and hunched backs echoed her mournful pose. Firepaw watched. He had not known Redtail, but he couldn't help feeling moved as he witnessed the clan mourn. Greypaw came and stood beside him again. "Thuspaw will be sad," he remarked. "Thuspaw?" Redtail's apprentice. "The brown-strapped tabby over there. I wonder who his new mentor will be." Firepaw glanced over at the small Tom who squatted near Redtail's body, staring unseeingly at the ground. Firepaw looked past him into the clan leader. "How long will Bluestar sit with him?" he asked. "Probably the whole night," replied Greypaw. "Redtail was her deputy for many, many moons. She won't want to let him go too quickly. He was one of the best warriors, not as big and powerful as Tigerclaw or Lionheart, but quick and clever." Suddenly, Tigerclaw stood and stalked over to Ravenpaw. Spotted was crouching beside Tigerclaw's wounded apprentice, using her teeth and front paws to press wads of cobweb into his shoulder wound. Firepaw leaned towards Greypaw and asked, "What's Spotted doing?" "Stopping the bleeding. It looked like a nasty cut, and Ravenpaw seemed real shaken up. He's always been a bit jumpy, but I've never seen him this bad before. Let's go see if he's woken up yet." They made their way through the grieving cats towards the spot where Ravenpaw lay and settled themselves a respectful distance away to wait until Tigerclaw had finished speaking. So Spotted Leaf," Tigerclaw addressed the tortoiseshell with a confident meow. "How is he? Do you think you can save him? I spent a lot of time training him up, and I don't want my efforts to be wasted in the first battle." Spotted Leaf didn't look up from her patient as she replied, "Yes, a pity if, after all your valuable training, he dies in his first fight, hey?" Firepaw could hear teasing purr in her soft mew. "Will he live?" Tigerclaw demanded. "Of course. He just needs rest." Tigerclaw snorted and looked down at the motionless black shape. He jabbed Ravenpaw with one of his front claws. "Come on, then. Get up!" Ravenpaw didn't move. "Look at the length of that claw," Firepaw hissed. "Too right," replied Greypaw with feeling. "I know I wouldn't want to get into a fight with him." "Not so fast, Tigerclaw!" Spotted Leaf placed her paw over Tigerclaw's sharp talon and gently moved it away. "This apprentice needs to be as still as possible until the cut has healed. We don't want him opening his wound by jumping around trying to please you. Leave him alone." Firepaw found himself holding his breath as he waited for Tigerclaw's reaction. He guessed that few cats dared to give orders to the warrior like that. But the big tabby stiffened and seemed about to speak when Spotted Leaf mewed teasingly. "Even you know better than to argue with a medicine cat, Tigerclaw." Tigerclaw's eyes flashed at the little tortoiseshell's words. "I wouldn't dare argue with you, dear Spotted Leaf," he purred. He turned to leave and caught sight of Greypaw and Firepaw. "Who's this?" he asked Greypaw, towering over them. "He's the new apprentice," Greypaw mewed. "He smells like kitty pet," snorted the warrior. "I was a house cat," Firepaw meowed boldly, "but I'm going to train to be a warrior." Tigerclaw looked at him with sudden interest. "Ah, yes, now I remember. Bluestar mentioned that she had stumbled across some stray kitty pet. So she's actually going to try you out, is she?" Firepaw sat up very straight, anxious to impress this distinguished clan warrior. "That's right," he meowed respectfully. Tigerclaw eyed him thoughtfully. "Then I shall watch your progress with interest." Firepaw puffed his chest out proudly as Tigerclaw stalked away. "Do you think he liked me?" "I don't think Tigerclaw likes any apprentice," whispered Greypaw. Just then Ravenpaw stirred and twitched his ears. "Has he gone?" "Who, Tigerclaw?" replied Greypaw, trotting towards him. "Yep, he's gone." "Hi there," Firepaw began, about to introduce himself. "Go away, both of you," Spotted Leaf protested. "How am I meant to help this cat with all these interruptions?" She impatiently flicked her tail at Greypaw and Firepaw and pushed her way between them and her patient. Firepaw realized she was serious, despite the lively glimmer in her warm amber eyes. Come on then, Firepaw, meowed Greypaw. I'll show you around. See you later, Ravenpaw. The two cats left Spotted Leaf with Ravenpaw and walked across the clearing. Greypaw looked thoughtful. He was clearly taking his duties of this guide very serious. You know the high rock already, he began, flicking his tail towards the big, smooth rock. Blue Star always addresses the clan from there. Her den is down there. He lifted his nose towards a hollow in the side of the high rock. Her den was carved out many moons ago by an ancient stream. Hanging like lichen draped the entrance, sheltering the leader's nest from wind and rain. The warriors sleep over here, Greypaw went on. Firepaw followed him to a large bush a few paces away from the high rock. There was a clear view from here right down to the gorse entrance into the camp. The branches of the bush hung low, but Firepaw could see a sheltered space where the warriors made their nests. The senior warriors sleep nearest to the center, where it's the warmest, explained Greypaw. They usually share their fresh kill together, over by that clump of nettles. The younger warriors eat nearby. Sometimes they are invited to join the senior warriors for eating, which is a big honor. What about the other clans? Firepaw asked, fascinated but feeling rather overwhelmed by all the traditions and rituals of clan life. What about the other clan cats, he said. Well, the queens share warrior quarters when they work as warriors, but when they are expecting kids or nursing them, they stay in a nest near the nursery. The elders have their own place on the other side of the clearing. Come on, I'll show you. Firepaw trotted after Greypaw across the clearing and past the shadowy corner where Spotted Leaf had her den. They stopped beside a fallen tree that sheltered a patch of lush grass. Crouched among the soft greenery were 4 elder cats tucking into a plump young rabbit. Dustpaw and Sandpaw would have brought him that, whispered Greypaw. One of the apprentice's duties is catching fresh kill for the elders. Hello, youngsters, one of the elders greeted Greypaw. Hello, Small Ear, meowed Greypaw, nodding respectfully. This must be our new apprentice, Firepaw, isn't it? Meowed a second Tom. His patchy fur was dark brown. There was only a stump where his tail should have been. That's right, Firepaw replied, copying Greypaw's polite nod. I'm half-tail, purred the brown Tom. Welcome to the clan. Have you two eaten? Meowed Small Ear. Firepaw and Greypaw both shook their heads. Well, there's enough here. Dustpaw and Sandpaw are turning into fine hunters. Would you mind these youngsters shared our mouse, One Eye? The pale green queen who lay beside him shook her head. Firepaw noticed one of her eyes was clouded and sightless. What about you, Dappletail? The other elder, a tortoise-shell she-cat with a gray muzzle, meowed in a voice cracked with age. Of course not! Thank you, meowed Greypaw eagerly. He stepped forward and took a large mouse from the pile of prey, then dropped it at Firepaw's feet. You still not tasted mouse? He asked. No, Firepaw admitted. He suddenly felt excited by the warm smells that were rising from the piece of fresh kill. His whole body quivered at the thought of sharing his first real food as a clan member. In that case, you can have the first bite. Just save me some. Greypaw dipped his head and stood back to give Firepaw room. Firepaw crouched down and took a large bite from the mouse. It was juicy and tender, and sang with the flavors of the forest. What do you think? Asked Greypaw. Fantastic! Mumbled Firepaw, his mouth still full. Move over then, mewed Greypaw, stepping forward and bending his head to take a bite. As the two apprentices shared the mouse, they listened to the elders talk among themselves. How long before Blue Star appoints a new deputy? Asked Small Ear. What did you say? What did you say, Small Ear? Meowed One Eye. I think your hearing has become as poor as your eyesight, snapped Small Ear impatiently. I said, how long before Blue Stripe appoints a new deputy? One Eye ignored Small Ear's irritated reply and spoke instead to the tortoiseshell queen. Dappletail, do you remember the day many moons ago when Blue Star herself was an appointed deputy? Dappletail mewed earnestly. Ah, yes. It was not long after she lost her kits.
She'll not be happy to be appointed a new deputy, Small Ear observed. Redtail served her long and well, but she'll need to make up her mind quickly. According to clan custom, the choice has to be made before moon high after the death of the old deputy.
At least this time the choice is obvious,
meowed Halftail. Firepaw raised his head and looked around the clearing. Who could Halftail mean? To Firepaw, all the warriors looked worthy of becoming deputy. Perhaps he meant Tigerclaw. After all, he had avenged Redtail's death. Tigerclaw was sitting not far off, his ears angled towards the elder's conversation. As Firepaw stretched with his tongue to lick the last traces of mouth from his whiskers, Bluestar's voice called from the high rock. Redtail's body still lay in the clearing below, pale gray in the fading light. A new deputy must be appointed, she meowed. But first, let us give thanks to StarClan for the life of Redtail. Tonight, he sits with his fellow warriors among the stars. Silence fell as all the clan cats looked up to the sky, which was beginning to darken in the evening as the evening crept over the forest. And now I shall name Thunderclat's new deputy. Bluestar continued. I say these words before the body of Redtail, so that his spirit may hear and approve my choice. Firepaw looked at Tigerclaw. He couldn't help noticing the hunger in the warrior's amber eyes as he stared up at the high rock. Lionheart, meowed Bluestar, will be the new deputy of ThunderClan. Firepaw was curious to see Tigerclaw's reaction, but the dark warrior's face revealed nothing as he moved to congratulate Lionheart with a nudge so hearty that it almost pushed the golden tab off balance. Why didn't she make Tigerclaw the deputy? Firepaw whispered to Greypaw. Probably because Lionheart has been a warrior longer, so he has more experience, Greypaw murmured back, still looking up at Bluestar. Bluestar spoke again. Redtail was also mentor to young Dustpaw. Since there must be no delay in training for our apprentices, I shall appoint Dustpaw's new mentor immediately. Darkstripe, you are ready for your first apprentice, so you will continue Dustpaw's training. You have a fine mentor in Tigerclaw, and I expect you to pass on some of the excellent skills you were taught. The tabby warrior swelled with pride as he showed his acceptance with the solemn nod. He strode over to Dustpaw, bent his head, and rather awkwardly touched noses with his new apprentice. Dustpaw flicked his tail respectfully, but his eyes were still dull with grief for his lost mentor. Bluestar raised her voice. I shall keep a vigil with Redtail's body for tonight, before we bury him at sunrise. She jumped down from the high rock and walked over to lie beside Redtail's body once more. Many of the other cats joined her, Dustpaw and Small Ear among them. Should we sit with them too? Firepaw suggested. He had to admit the idea didn't appeal to him much. It had been a busy day, and he was beginning to feel tired. All he wanted to do was to find somewhere warm and dry, and curl up and sleep. Greypaw shook his head. No, only those who were closest to Redtail will share his final night. I'll show you where we sleep. The apprentice's den is over there. Firepaw followed Greypaw to a thick bush of ferns that lay beside a mossy tree stump. All the apprentices share their fresh kill by this stump, Greypaw told him. How many apprentices are there? Firepaw asked. Not many as usual. Just me, you, Ravenpaw, Dustpaw, and Sandpaw. As Greypaw and Firepaw settled themselves beside the tree stump, a young she-cat crawled out from beneath the ferns. Her coat was ginger, like Firepaw's, but much paler, with barely visible stripes of darker fur. So here comes the new apprentice, she meowed, narrowing her eyes. Hello, Firepaw mewed. The young cat sniffed rudely. He smells like kitty pet. Don't tell me I'm going to have to share my nest with that revolting stench. Firepaw felt rather taken aback. Since his fight with Longtail, all the cats had been quite friendly. Maybe they'd just been distracted by Ravenpaw's news, he thought. You'll have to excuse Sandpaw, apologized Greypaw. I think she must have a furball stuck somewhere. She's not usually this bad-tempered. Psst, spat Sandpaw crossly. Hang on. What kind of voice should I do?
Hang on, youngsters. The deep voice of Whitestorm sounded behind the apprentices. Sandpaw, as my apprentice, I expected you to be a little more welcoming of this newcomer.
Sandpaw held up her head and looked defiant. I'm sorry, Whitestorm, she purred, not sounding sorry at all. I just didn't expect to be training with a kitty pet. That's all.
I'm sure you'll get used to it, Sandpaw, meowed Whitestorm calmly. Now, it's getting late, and training starts early tomorrow. You three should get some sleep.
He gave Sandpaw a stern look, and she nodded obediently. As he walked off, she spun around and vanished into the clump of ferns, sniffing once more as she brushed past Firepaw. With a flick of his tail, Greypaw invited Firepaw to follow him, and led the way after Sandpaw. Inside the sleeping area, the ground was lined with soft moss, and the pale moonlight turned everything a delicate shade of green. The air was fragrant with fern scent, and warmer than the outside. Where do I sleep? Firepaw asked. Anywhere, just so long— Oh, sorry, this was Sandpaw. Anywhere, just so long as it's not near me, snarled Sandpaw, who was prodding some moss with her paw. Greypaw and Firepaw exchanged glances, but said nothing. Firepaw racked together a pile of moss with his claws. When he had gathered his bed coat into a cozy nest, he circled it until he was comfortable and settled down. His whole body felt drowsy with contentment. This was his home now. He was a member of ThunderClan. Yay! That's chapter 4. Exchange with the book series is being 11 in a car during hot summer. So true. That's a really, really relatable thing. Luca Stella. That's a cute name. Delicious. Woo! There's so many. Okay, so reading the names out loud winds up being like a tongue twister, especially with all the paws: Greypaw, Firepaw, Sandpaw, Dustpaw, Ravenpaw. Thank you, Somly! And thank you for the follow! Should I call you Luca or Stella? And Fatal Approach, hi! Thank you for the follow! The elders are so fun to voice. Cozy time for real, for real. Page 41. Oops. Here, let me have a little snacky. I still have my Aero truffle. My Aero bar that's the Nanaimo bar flavored. Double bar. What's crazy is we actually have a Nanaimo bar mixed downstairs, but no one has made it yet. Maybe I'll make it sometime. Oh. How much were you planning on reading this stream? I'm not sure. I figured I would go until my throat started hurting, but I don't know. I might go either until we reach 3 hours or 2 hours and a half. I think the time would be better than like a chapter, because I don't really know how long the chapters are. Also, how many chapters there are. So it would be more like, because we're almost at 2 hours. Oh. We're almost at 2 hours. Okay. One more sip. Let's go. Thank you for the headband! Chapter 5. Hey, Firepaw, wake up! Graypaw's meow broke into Firepaw's dream. He had been chasing a squirrel up and up into the topmost branches of a tall oak. Training begins at sunrise. Dustpaw and Sandpaw are already up, Graypaw added urgently. Firepaw stretched sleepily, then remembered. Today was his first day of training. He leapt to his paws. His drowsiness evaporated as excitement surged through his veins. Graypaw was giving himself a hasty wash. Between licks, he meowed. I've just spoken to Lionheart. Ravenpaw won't be training with us till his wound is better. He'll probably stay in Spudleaf's den for another day or two. Dustpaw and Sandpaw are on hunchy duty, so Lionheart thought you and I could train with him and Tigerclaw this morning. We better hurry, though, he added. They'll be waiting. Graypaw led Firepaw quickly through the gorse entrance, off the camp and up the side of the rock-strewn valley. As they climbed over the crest... Where am I? As they climbed over the crest of the ravine, a cool breeze ruffled their fur. Fat, white clouds raced across the blue sky overhead. Firepaw felt fierce joy well up inside him as he followed Graypaw down a tree-shaded slope and into a sandy hollow. Tigerclaw and Lionheart were indeed waiting, sitting a few tail lengths apart from the sun-warmed sand.
In the future, I expect you both to be punctual,
growled Tigerclaw.
Don't be too severe, Tigerclaw. It was a busy night last night. I expect they were tired, meowed Lionheart gently. You have not yet been assigned a mentor, Firepaw, he went on. For now, Tigerclaw and I will share your training. Firepaw nodded enthusiastically, his tail held high, unable to disguise his delight as having two such great warriors as his mentor. Come, meowed Tigerclaw impatiently. Today we are going to show you the edges of our territory so that you know where you will be hunting and what boundaries you need to protect. Graypaw, it won't do you any harm to remind yourself of our clan's outer limits.
Without another word, Tigerclaw leaped up and bounded out of the sandy hollow. Lionheart nodded to Graypaw and they took off his equal speed. Firepaw scrambled after them, his paws slipping on the soft sand. The trees were thick in this part of the forest. Birch and ash trees overshadowed mighty oaks. The ground was carpeted with crisp dead leaves that rustled beneath their paws. Tigerclaw paused to spray his scent on a thick clump of ferns. The other cat stopped beside him.
This here is a two-leg path. There is a two-leg path here, murmured Lionheart. Use your nose, Firepaw. Can you smell anything?
Firepaw sniffed. There was a faint scent of a two-leg and a stronger smell of a dog, familiar to him from his own home. A two-leg has walked a dog around here, but they're gone now, he mewed.
Good, meowed Lionheart. Do you think it's safe to cross?
Firepaw sniffed again. The odors were weak and seemed overlaid with the fresher forest smells. Yes, he replied. Tigerclaw nodded, and the four cats stalked out from beneath the ferns and crossed the sharp stones of the narrow two-leg path. Oh my gosh, I'm getting tiger mixed with everything. Beyond the trees were pine. They grew tall and straight, row after row. It was easy to walk silently here. The ground was thick with layers of dead needles, which pricked against Firepaw's pads, but felt spongy underneath. There was no undergrowth here to hide in, and Firepaw sensed tension in the other cats as they stalked unprotected between the tree trunks.
Two Legs put these trees here, meowed Tigerclaw. They cut them down with foul-smelling creatures, which spew enough fumes to make a kit go blind. Then they take the fallen trees to the tree-cut place that lies near here.
Firepaw stopped and listened for the roar of the tree-eater, which he had heard before. The tree-cut place will be silent for a few moons more. Until the time of Greenleaf, explained Graypaw, noticing his pause. The cats padded through the pine forest.
Two-leg place lives in that direction, meowed Tigerclaw, flicking his thick tail to one side. No doubt you can smell it, Firepaw. Today, however, we will head the other way.
Eventually, they reached another two-leg path that marked the far edge of the pine forest. They quickly crossed over onto the safe bushes of the oak woods beyond, but Firepaw still sensed anxiety in the other cats.
We're approaching River Clan territory, whispered Graypaw. The sunning rocks are over there. He pointed with his soft muzzle to a treeless mound of boulders. Firepaw felt his fur stand on end. This was where Redtail had been slain. Lionheart stopped the flat gray rock. This is the boundary between ThunderClan and RiverClan territory. RiverClan rules the hunting grounds beside the Great River, he meowed. Breathe deeply, Firepaw. The pungent smell of unfamiliar cats hit the roof of Firepaw's mouth. He was surprised how different it smelled from the warm cat scents of the ThunderClan camp. And he was also surprised to realize just how familiar and comforting the ThunderClan scent seemed to him already. That is the smell of RiverClan, Tigerclaw growled beside him. Remember it well. It will be strongest at the boundary, because their warriors will have scent marked the trees along here. With those words, the dark tabby lifted his tail and sprayed his own mark on the flat rock. We'll foul this boundary line as it leads straight to the fortress. He set off quickly, away from sunning rocks. Followed by Tigerclaw, Graypaw and Firepaw trotted after them. What is the fortress? Firepaw panted. It's where the territories of all 4 clans meet, Graypaw replied. There are 4 great oaks there, as old as the clan. Be quiet, ordered Tigerclaw. Don't forget how close we are to enemy territory. The 2 apprentices fell silent, and Firepaw concentrated on walking silently. They crossed a shallow stream, keeping their paws dry by leaping from boulder to boulder across the pebbled riverbed. By the time they reached the fortress, Firepaw was feeling completely out of breath and his paws ached. He wasn't used to traveling so far and so fast. He was quite relieved when Lionheart and Tigerclaw led them out of the thick woods and stopped at the brow of a bush-covered slope. It was sun-high now. The clouds had cleared and the wind had dropped. Below, in the dazzling sunlight, stood 4 enormous oaks, the dark green crowns reaching almost the top of the steep slope. As Graypaw told you, meowed Lionheart to Firepaw, this is the 4 trees. Oh my god! Okay, pause. I've been reading 4 trees as fortress my entire life. And I just realized now it's 4 trees. Because there's 4 trees, not a fortress. Oh my god. I cannot believe this. Nono English moment. Oh my god. My whole life, guys. My entire childhood. I thought it was the fortress, not the 4 trees. Dyslexia moment. Anyways, as Graypaw told you, meowed Lionheart to Firepaw, this is 4 trees, where the territories of all 4 clans meet. Wind Clan governs the high ground ahead of us, where the sun sets. You won't be able to catch their scent today. The wind is blowing towards them, but you'll learn it soon enough. And Shadow Clan holds power over there, in the darkest part of the forest, added Graypaw, flicking his head sideways. The elders say that the cold winds from the north blow over Shadow Clan cats and chill their hearts. So many clans, Firepaw exclaimed, and so well organized, he added to himself, remembering Smudge's lurid tales of wildcats wreaking terror in the forest. You see now why prey is so precious, meowed Lionheart. Why must we fight to protect what little we have? Or why we must fight for what little we have? But that seems foolish. Why can't the clans work together to share their hunting grounds instead of fighting each other? Firepaw suggested boldly. A shocked silence greeted his words. Tigerclaw was the first to reply. That is treacherous thinking, Kitty Pat, he snapped. Don't be too fierce, Tigerclaw, warned Lionheart. The ways of the clan are new to this apprentice. He looked at Firepaw. You speak from your heart, young Firepaw. This will make you stronger warrior one day. Tigerclaw growled, or it might make him give in to the kitty pet weakness right at the moment of attack. Lionheart glanced briefly at Tiger Claw before he continued. The 4 clans do come together peacefully in a gathering each moon. Here, he bent his head towards the 4 mighty oaks below, is where they meet. The truce lasts for as long as the moon is at its fullest.
Then there must be a meeting very soon, Firepaw suggested, remembering how bright the moonlight had been the night before.
Indeed it is, I answered Lionheart, sounding impressed. Tonight, in fact. The gatherings are very important because they allow the clans to come together in peace for one night. But you must understand that longer alliances bring more trouble than they're worth. It is our clan's loyalty that makes us strong, Tiger Claw meowed in agreement. If you weaken that loyalty, you weaken our chances of survival.
Firepaw nodded. I understand, he mewed.
Come on, meowed Lionheart, standing up. Let's get moving.
They paced along the ridge of the valley where the 4 trees stood. Now they were headed away from the sun as it began to sink into the afternoon sky. They crossed the stream at a place where it was narrow enough to leap over in one jump. Firepaw sniffed the air. A new cat scent touched his mouth glands, strong and sour.
Which clan is that? He asked. Shadow Clan, answered Tiger Claw grimly. We're traveling along their border. Keep your wits about you, Firepaw. Fresher scents mean that a Shadow Clan patrol is in the area.
As Firepaw nodded, he heard a new noise. He stiffened, but the other cats kept up their pace, headed straight for the ominous rumbling.
What's that? He called, trotting to catch up with them. You'll see in a moment.
Firepaw peered through the trees ahead. They seemed to be getting thinner, letting in a broad band of sunlight.
Are we at the edge of the woods? He asked, and then stopped and took a deep breath. The green forest scents were overlaid with the other strange, dark smells. This time it was not cat scent, but an odor that reminded him of his 2-leg home. The rumbling was getting louder, a ceaseless roar that made the ground tremble and ached in Firepaw's ears.
This is a thunder path, meowed Tiger Claw. Firepaw followed as Lionheart led them towards the edge of the forest. Then he sat down on all 4 cats looked out. Firepaw could see a gray path like a river cutting its way through the forest. The hard gray stone stretched ahead of him so far that the trees on the other side seemed blurred and tiny. Firepaw shuddered at the bitter smell that rose from the path. The next moment he leaped back, his fur bristling as a gigantic monster roared past. The branches of the trees on either side flapped madly in the wind that chased the speeding monster. Firepaw stared around at the other cats, his eyes wide, unable to speak. He had seen paths like this before near his old 2-leg home, but never this wide, nor with monsters so swift and fierce.
Scared me too the first time, remarked Graypaw, but at least it helps to keep Shadow Clan warriors from crossing into our territory. The Thunder Path runs for many paw steps along our border line. And don't worry, these monsters never seem to leave the Thunder Path. You'll be fine as long as you don't go too near. It's time we return to camp, meowed Lionheart. You have seen all our boundaries now, but we'll avoid Snake Rocks, even though the way around is longer. An untrained apprentice would be easy prey for an adder, and I expect you are getting tired, Firepaw.
Firepaw couldn't help feeling relieved as the thought of returning to the camp. His head was spinning with all the new smells and sights, and Lionheart was right. He was tired and hungry. He fell in behind Graypaw as the cats turned away from the Thunder Path and headed back into the forest. The dewy scents of the evening filled the air as Firepaw made his way through the gorse entrance into the Thunder Clan camp. Fresh Kill was waiting for them. Firepaw and Graypaw took their share from the pile that lay in the shady part of the clearing and carried it to the tree stump outside their quarters. Dustpaw and Sandpaw were already there, munching hungrily.
Hey there, kitty pet, meowed Dustpaw, narrowing his eyes scornfully at Firepaw. Enjoy the food we caught for you?
Who knows? You might even learn to catch your own one day, sneered Sandpaw.
Are you two still on hunty duty? Asked Graypaw innocently. Never mind, we've been patrolling our territory borders.
You'll be glad to know it's all safe.
I'm sure the other clans were terrified when they smelled you two coming, yowled Dustpaw.
They didn't even dare show their faces, retorted Greypaw, unable to hide his anger. Well, we'll have to ask them tonight when we see them at the clan gathering, mewed Sandpaw. Are you going? Firepaw blurted out, impressed in spite of the apprentice's hostility. Of course, replied Dustpaw woefully. It's a great honor, you know. But don't worry, we'll tell you all about it in the morning. Greypaw ignored Dustpaw's gloating and started eating his fresh kill. Firepaw was hungry too, and crouched down to eat. He couldn't help feeling a twinge of envy that Dustpaw and Sandpaw were actually going to meet the other clans tonight. A loud call from Blue Star made Firepaw look up. He watched several of the clan warriors and elders gather into the clearing. It was time for the clan party to leave for the gathering. Dustpaw and Sandpaw leaped to their feet and trotted off to join the other cats. Bye, you two, called Sandpaw over their shoulder. Have a nice, quiet evening. The assembled cats stalked out of the camp entrance in single file, with Blue Star in the head. Her fur glowed like silver in the moonlight, and she looked calm and confident as she led her clan to the brief truce between old enemies. Have you ever been to a gathering? Firepaw asked Greypaw wistfully. Not yet, replied Greypaw, crunching loudly on a mouse bone. But it won't be long now. Just you wait, all the apprentices get to go sometime. The two apprentices ate the rest of their meal in silence. When they had finished, Greypaw wandered over to Firepaw and began to groom his head. Together they washed, sharing tongues as Firepaw had seen the other cats do when he first arrived. Then, tired after the long trek, they pushed their way into the den. They settled down into their nests and quickly fell asleep. The following morning, Greypaw and Firepaw arrived early at the sandy hollow. They had crept out before Sandpaw and Dustpaw woke. Firepaw had been eager to hear about the gathering, but Greypaw had dragged him away. You'll hear about all it later, if I know those two, he had meowed. It promised to be another warm day. And this time Ravenpaw came to join them. Thanks to Spotted Leaf, his wounds was healing well. Greypaw played around, scooping leaves into the air and leaping after them. Firepaw watched, his tail twitching in amusement. Ravenpaw sat quietly at one side of the hollow, looking tense and unhappy. Cheer up, Ravenpaw, called Greypaw. I know you don't like training, but you're not usually this miserable. The scents of Lionheart and Tiger Claw warned the apprentices of their approach, and Ravenpaw mewed hastily. I suppose I'm just worried about my shoulder getting hurt again. At that moment, Tiger Claw emerged from the bushes, closely followed by Lionheart. Warriors should suffer their pain silently, growled Tiger Claw. He looked Ravenpaw straight in the eye. You need to learn to hold your tongue. Ravenpaw flinched and dropped his eyes to the ground. Tiger Claw's a bit grumpy today, Greypaw whispered into Firepaw's ear. Lionheart glanced at his apprentice sternly and announced, Today we are going to practice stalking. Now, there's a big difference between creeping up on a rabbit and creeping up on a mouse. Can any of you tell me why? Firepaw had no idea, and Ravenpaw seemed to have taken Tiger Claw's comment to heart and was holding his tongue. Come on, snorted Tiger Claw impatiently. It was Greypaw who answered, Because a rabbit will smell you before he sees you, but a mouse will feel your footsteps through the ground before he even smells you. Exactly, Greypaw. So what must you bear in mind when hunting mice? Step lightly, Firepaw suggested. Lionheart looked approvingly at him. Quite right, Firepaw. You must take all your weight into your haunches, so that your paws make no impact on the forest floor. Let's try it. Firepaw watched as Greypaw and Ravenpaw immediately dropped into a stalking crouch. Nicely done, Greypaw, meowed Lionheart as the two apprentices began to move forward stealthily. Keep your rear down, Ravenpaw. You look like a duck, spat Tiger Claw. Now you try it, Firepaw. Firepaw crouched down and began to creep across the forest floor. He felt himself fall instinctively into the right position, and as he stepped forward, as silently and lightly as he could, he felt a glow of pride that his muscles responded so smoothly. Well, it's obvious you've known nothing but softness, growled Tiger Claw. You stalk like a lumbering kitty pet. Do you think dinner is going to come and lie down in your food dish and wait to be eaten? Firepaw sat up quickly as Tiger Claw spoke, a little taken aback by his harsh words. He listened carefully to the warrior, determined to get everything right.
His pace and forward movement will come later, but his crouch is perfectly balanced, Lionheart pointed out mildly. Which is better than Ravenpaw, I suppose, complained Tigerclaw. He cast a scornful look at the black cat. Even after 2 moons of training, you're still putting all your weight on your left side. Ravenpaw looked even more dejected, and Firepaw couldn't help himself from blurting out, his injury is bothering him, that's all. Tigerclaw whipped his head around and glared at Firepaw. Injuries are a fact of life. He should be able to adapt. Even you, Firepaw, have learned something this morning. If Ravenpaw picked up things as quickly as you, he'd be a credit to me instead of an embarrassment. Imagine being shown up by a kitty pet. He spat angrily at his apprentice. Firepaw felt his fur prickle with discomfort. He couldn't meet Ravenpaw's eyes, so he looked down at his paws. Well, I'm more lopsided than one-legged badger, mewed Graypaw, breaking off from his careful stalking to stagger comedically across the clearing. I think I'll have to settle for hunting stupid mice. They won't stand a chance. I shall just wander up to them and sit on them until they surrender. Concentrate, young Graypaw. This is no time for your jokes, meowed Lionheart sternly. Perhaps you might focus your mind better if you try out your stalking for real. All 3 apprentices looked up brightly. I want each of you to try catching real prey, meowed Lionheart. Ravenpaw, you look beside the owl tree. Graypaw, there might be something in that big bramble patch over there. And you, Firepaw, follow the rabbit track over that rise. You'll find the dry bed of a winter stream. You may find something there. The 3 apprentices bounded away, even Ravenpaw finding some extra energy for this challenge. With the blood pounding in his ears, Firepaw crept slowly up over the rise. Sure enough, a stream bed cut through the trees ahead of him. In leaf-fall, he guessed, it would carry the rainwater away from the forest and into the great river that cut RiverClan territory. Now it was dry. Firepaw crept quietly down the bank and crouched on its sandy floor. Every sense felt on fire with tension. Silently, he scanned the empty stream for signs of life. He watched out for any tiny movement. His mouth opened so he could pick up the smallest scent. His eyes twisted forward. Then he smelled mouse. He recognized the odor instantly. Remembering his first taste from the night before, wild energy surged through him, but he remained motionless, trying desperately to pinpoint the prey. He strained his ears forward until he picked up the rapid pulsing of a tiny mouse heart. Then a flash of brown caught his eyes. The creature was scrambling through the long grass that draped the edges of the stream. Firepaw shifted closer, remembering to keep his weight on his haunches until he was within striking distance. Then he pushed back hard on his hind paws and sprang, kicking up sand as he rose. The mouse raced away, but Firepaw was quicker. He scooped it into the air with one paw, threw it onto the sandy stream bed, and lunged on top of it. He killed it quickly with one sharp bite. Firepaw carefully lifted the warm body between his teeth and returned with his tail held high to the hollow where Tigerclaw and Lionheart waited. He had made his first kill. He was a true ThunderClan apprentice now. Woohoo! Congratulations, Firepaw. You did it. Also, congrats, Ash! You won. How do these cats know physics so well? They know. They just do. It's instinct. March high! Oh my god, look at how scary those emotes look on the chat right there. That's so funny. Drinking from a boxed juice is really hard. Especially when you're near the bottom. A juice box! Yeah, not a box juice. Well, I mean, that's the same thing, isn't it? Okay, I've decided that we'll go until 2 hours and a half. I think, let's see.
Yeah, we might be able to get through 2 more chapters.
Ooh, a fan favorite is coming up.
A fan favorite cat is coming up. Okay. Chapter 6. Early morning sunlight streamed down to the forest floor as Firepaw roamed in search of prey. 2 moons had passed since he had begun his training. He felt at ease in this environment now. His senses had been awoken and educated in the ways of the woods. Firepaw paused to sniff the earth and the cold blind things that moved within it. He caught the scent of a 2-leg that had wandered the forest recently. Now the green leaf was fully here, leaves were thick on the branches, and tiny creatures were busy beneath the carpet of leaf mold. Firepaw made a lean, strong shape as he moved silently through the trees, all of his senses alert for the scent trail that would end in a swift kill. Today he had been set his first solo task. He was determined to do well, even if his task was only to bring back fresh kill for the clan. He headed for the stream he had crossed on that first trek through the ThunderClan hunting grounds. It gurgled and spattered as it ran downhill over the smooth, round pebbles. Firepaw paused briefly to lap at the cold, clear water, then lifted his head and tasted the air again for any scent of prey. The stench of a fox lay heavy in the air here. The smell was stale, so the fox must have drunk here earlier in the day. Firepaw recognized the odor. He had smelled it on his first visit into the forest. Since then, Lionheart had taught him it was a fox scent. But, apart from the glimpse of the fox brush he had caught on his first outing, Firepaw had never seen one properly. He struggled to screen out the fox stench and concentrated on prey scent. Suddenly, his whiskers prickled as he honed in on the warm blood beat of prey, a water vole busy about its nest. A moment later, he saw the vole. The fat brown body was darting back and forth along the bank as it gathered grass stalks. Firepaw's mouth watered in anticipation. His last meal had been many hours ago, but he dared not hunt for himself until the clan had been fed. He remembered the words repeated by Lionheart and Tigerclaw time and time again. The clan must be fed first. Dropping into a crouch, Firepaw began to stalk the little creature. His orange belly fur brushed against the damp grass. He crept closer, his eyes never leaving his prey. Almost there. Another moment and he would be near enough to spring. Suddenly there was a loud rustle in the ferns behind him. The water vole's ears twitched and it disappeared into a dark hole in the bank. Firepaw felt his hackles rising along his spine. Whatever had ruined his first good chance of catching prey would have to pay. He sniffed the air. He could tell it was a cat, but he realized with a jolt that he couldn't identify which clan it belonged to. The stale stench of fox still confused his smell sense. A growl rose in his throat as he began doubling back in a wide circle. He pricked up his ears and opened his eyes wide, seeking out any movement. He heard the undergrowth rustle again. It was louder now. Off to one side, Firepaw edged closer. He could see the ferns moving, but the fronds still hid the enemy from view. A twig snapped with a sharp, cracking noise. From the noise it's making, it must be big, Firepaw thought, preparing himself for a fierce battle. He leaped for the trunk of an ash. He leaped for a trunk of an ash and climbed swiftly and silently up to an overhanging branch. Below him, the invisible warrior came closer and closer still. Firepaw held his breath, judging his movements as the ferns were pushed aside and a large grayish shape emerged. Grrr! The battle cry rumbled in Firepaw's throat. Claws unsheathed, he launched himself at the enemy and landed squarely on a set of furry, muscular shoulders. He dug in hard, gripping with thorn-sharp claws, ready to deal out a powerful warning bite. Wow, what's that? The body below him shot straight up in the air, carrying him with it. Graypaw! Firepaw recognized the astonished voice and caught his familiar friend's smell, but he was too fired up to loosen his grip. Ambush! Meow!
no! Spat Graypaw, not realizing that the cat gripping his back was Firepaw. He rolled over and over in an attempt to dislodge his attacker. Ugh! Firepaw rolled with him and squashed and... Oh! Firepaw rolled with him! Squashed and flattened beneath the heavy body. It's me, Firepaw! He yowled and struggled to pull free and sheath his claws. Rolling away, he sprung to his feet and gave himself a shake, which rippled all the way along his body to the end of his tail. Graypaw, it's me, he repeated. I thought you were an enemy warrior. Graypaw rose to his feet. He winced and shook himself. They'll like it, he grumbled, twisting his head around to lick his sore shoulders. You ranked me to shreds. Sorry, Firepaw mumbled. But what was I supposed to think? With you creeping up on me like that. Creeping up? Graypaw's eyes were round with indignation. That was my best stealth crouch. Stealth? You still stalk like a lopsided badger, Firepaw teased. He flattened his ears playfully. Graypaw gave a hiss of delight. I'll show you lopsided. The two cats leapt at each other and began rolling over and over in a play fight. Graypaw swiped at Firepaw with hefty paw, and the young apprentice's head buzzed with stars. Woof! Firepaw shook his head to clear it and then launched a counterattack. He managed to get in a couple of paw strikes before Graypaw overpowered him and held him down. Firepaw let his body go limp. You give up too easily, meowed Graypaw, loosening his grip. As he did so, Firepaw sprang to his feet, firing Graypaw off his back and into the undergrowth. Firepaw leaped after him and pinned him to the ground. Surprise is the warrior's greatest weapon, he crooned. Quoting one of Fireheart's favorite phrases, he jumped nimbly off Graypaw and began to squirm around the leaf litter, enjoying the easy victory and the warmth of the earth against his back. Graypaw seemed unbothered by his second defeat of the morning. It was too fine a day for bad temper. So, how are you getting on with your task? He asked. Firepaw sat up. I was doing just fine till you came along. I was about to catch a vole with your nose, and when your noisy trampling frightened it off. Oh, sorry, meowed Graypaw. Firepaw looked at his crestfallen friend. That's okay. You didn't know, he purred. Anyway, he continued, shouldn't you be headed to meet the patrol on the Wind Clan border? I thought you had to give them a message for Bluestar. Yeah, but there's plenty of time. I was going on a little hunting first. I'm starving. Me too, but I've got to hunt for the clan before I can hunt for myself. I bet Dustpaw and Sandpaw used to swallow a shrew or two when they were on hunty duty, snorted Graypaw. I wouldn't be surprised if they did, but this is my first solo assignment. And you want to do it right, I know, Graypaw sighed. What is the message from Bluestar anyway? Firepaw asked, changing the subject. She wants the patrol to wait at the Great Sycamore until she joins them at Sun High. Seems that some Shadow Clan cats have been prowling around. Bluestar wants to check things out. You'd best be going then, Firepaw reminded him. The Wind Clan hunting grounds aren't too far from here. There's plenty of time, answered Graypaw confidently. And I suppose I should help out after losing you that vole. Doesn't matter, Firepaw mewed. I'll find another. It's just a warm day. They should be quite deaf for you out and about. True, but you still have to catch 'em. Graypaw nibbled at a front claw, stripping off a piece of the outer sheath thoughtfully. You know, that could take you until way past sun high, maybe until sunset. Firepaw nodded without enthusiasm as his belly gave a rumble. He would probably have to make 3 or 4 hunting trips before he caught enough prey. Silverpelt would be in the sky before he got the chance to eat. Graypaw stroked his whiskers. Come on, I'll help you get started. I owe you that at least. We should be able to catch a couple bulls before we have to get going. Firepaw followed Graypaw upstream, glad of the company and the help. The fudge stench was still in the air, but suddenly it smelled stronger. Firepaw paused. Can you smell that? He asked. Graypaw stopped and sniffed the air. Fox. Yeah, I smelled it earlier. Doesn't smell fresher. Doesn't it smell fresher to you now, though? Firepaw asked. Graypaw sniffed again, opening his mouth slightly. You're right, he murmured, lowering his voice. He swiveled his head to look across the stream at the bushes and the woods beyond. Look, he whispered. Firepaw looked. He saw something red and thick-haired moving among the bushes. It stepped into the clearing in the undergrowth, and Firepaw saw a low body, glinting red in the dappling sunlight. Its tail was heavy-furred, and it had a long, narrow snout. So that's a fox? Firepaw whispered. What an ugly muzzle.
Rude!
You can say that again, agreed Graypaw. I was following one of these when we first met, whispered Firepaw. More likely it was following you, you idiot, hissed Graypaw. Never trust a fox. Looks like a dog, behaves like a cat. We must warn the queens that one has strayed into our territory. Foxes are as bad as badgers when it comes to killing young kids. I'm just glad you didn't catch up with the one you saw last time. He'd have made a mouse meat out of the tiny scrap like you. Firepaw looked a little put out, and Graypaw added, You'd stand a better chance these days, though. Anyway, Blue Star will probably send a warrior patrol to scare it off. Put the queen's minds at rest. The fox had not noticed them, so the two apprentices continued along the stream. So, what does a badger look like? Firepaw asked as they prowled along, sniffing to either side. Black and white, short legs. You'll know one when you meet one. They're bad-tempered, lumbering animals. They're less likely to raid a nursery than the fox, but they have a vicious bite. How do you think old Halftail learned his name? He hasn't been able to climb a tree since the badger bit his tail off. Why not? Scared of falling. Cat needs his tail if he needs to land on your feet. Helps to spin midair. That's a lie. People think it is, but it's part of how they twist their body. I looked this up because my cat has a really funny small tail, and I was worried that she was gonna fall off the top of our stair mantle thing, and I learned that they can do it anyways. Firepaw nodded in understanding. As Firepaw had predicted, hunting was good that day. Before long, Graypaw had pounced on a small mouse, and Firepaw had caught a thrush. He quickly took its life. No time practiced killing techniques today. There were too many hungry mouse waiting back at camp. Firepaw kicked the earth over the prey so that it would be safe from predators until he came back for it. Suddenly, a squirrel broke cover. Firepaw burst into action. After it, he called, pelting at full stretch over the springy woodland floor with Graypaw at his heels. They slid to a halt as the squirrel scampered upward into a birch. Lost it, Graypaw growled in disappointment. Panting, the two cats stopped to catch their breath. The acrid stench that hit their mouths and noses surprised them. The Thunderpath, Firepaw mewed. I didn't realize we'd come so far. The two cats edged forward to peer out of the forest at the great dark path. It was the first time they had been here alone. A trail of noisy creatures growled along the hard surface, their dead eyes staring straight ahead. Yuck! Graypaw snorted. Those monsters really stink. Firepaw twitched his ear in agreement. The choking smell made his throat sting. Have you ever been across the Thunderpath? He mewed. Graypaw shook his head. Firepaw took a step out of the cover of the forest. A border of the oily grass lay between the trees and the Thunderpath. He crept slowly out onto it and then shrank back as a stinking monster hurled past. Hey, where are you going? Firepaw didn't reply. He waited till there was no monsters in sight. Then he edged forward again, across the grass, right onto the edge of the path. Cautiously, he reached out a paw to touch it. It felt warm, almost sticky, heated by the sun. He looked up, staring across the Thunderpath. Was that a pair of eyes glinting out of the forest on the other side? He sniffed the air, but smelled nothing except the stench of the great gray path. The eyes on the other side were still shining in the shadows. Then they blinked. Slowly. Firepaw was sure now. It was a Shadow Clan warrior, and it was staring right at him. Firepaw! Graypaw's voice made Firepaw jump, just as a huge monster, taller than a tree, roared past his nose. The wind from it almost toppled him over. Firepaw turned and ran as fast as he could back into the safety of the forest. You mouse-brained fool! Spat Graypaw. His whiskers trembled with fear and anger. What were you doing? I was just wondering what the Thunderpath felt like, Firepaw muttered. His whiskers were trembling too. Come on, hissed Graypaw edgily. Let's get out of here. Firepaw followed Graypaw as he leapt away back into the forest. Once they were a safe distance from the Thunderpath, Graypaw stopped to catch his breath. Firepaw sat down and began to lick the ruffle in his fur. I think I saw a Shadow Clan warrior, he mewed between licks, in the forest on the other side of the Thunderpath. A Shadow Clan warrior, echoed Greypaw, his eyes wide. Really? Pretty sure. Well, it's a good thing that monster came past when it did, ordered Greypaw. Where there's one Shadow Clan warrior, there's more, and we're no match for them yet. We better get out of here. He looked up at the sun, which was almost directly overhead. I better get a move on if I want to meet that patrol on time, he mewed. See you later. He sprang into the undergrowth, calling as he went. You never know. Lionheart might let me come and help you with the hunting once I've delivered this message. Firepaw watched him go. He envied Greypaw, wishing he were off to join a warrior patrol. But at least he'd have something to tell Dustpaw and Sandpaw when he returned to camp. Today, he had seen his first Shadow Clan warrior. Woohoo! Oh, dang, we're 3 minutes away! Oh, but I want to meet the favorites! I want you guys to meet the favorites. Okay, we'll do one more chapter. One more chapter, and that's it. For now. You guys have to meet the... Thank you for the 100! Yes, best cat alert coming up soon. My friend, seems like I came at the good time. Thank you. One more chapter. One more chapter for sure. I'm gonna shiver. One more chapter for sure because my voice is starting to... I'm starting to feel a little scratchy. We're gonna go through the whole book with this just one more talk. I bet I could finish this book if I had dedicated like 5 hours. I think I could read the book in 5 hours to you guys. Faster if I was reading it on my own, but speaking is hard. Talking is hard. Anyways, best cat alert coming up. Prepare yourselves mentally. Reading is so hard. And my brain, you can as I'm reading, you can tell what my brain is trying to autocorrect. That's the best example. You know when you're typing and your phone autocorrects? That's what my brain does when I read. It tries to autocorrect the words I'm about to read. Useless. It's not even good autocorrect. Okay. Chapter 7. Firepaw retraced his steps and headed back towards the stream. He thought of those eyes burning from the darkness of the Shadow Clan territory. Suddenly, he caught a faint smell on the breeze. A stranger! Perhaps that Shadow Clan warrior? Instantly, a growl rumbled in Firepaw's throat. The scent message told him many things. The stranger was a she-cat. Not young and definitely not from ThunderClan. She carried no distinct scent from any of the clans, but Firepaw could tell she was tired, hungry, and sick, and she was in an ugly mood. Dropping low, Firepaw moved forward, headed towards the scent. Then he paused in puzzlement. The warrior scent was fainter now. He sniffed again. Suddenly, with the lightning movement, a snarling ball of fur burst from the bushes behind him. Firepaw screeched in shock as the she-cat slammed into him, knocking him sideways. 2 heavy paws clamped down on his shoulders, and iron jaws closed around the back of his neck. Meow! He grunted, already thinking fast. If the other cat were to sink its fangs in too deep, it would all be over. He forced himself to go limp, relaxing his muscles as if in submission, and let out a pretend howl of alarm. The she-cat opened her mouth and gave a triumphant yowl. Ah, a punny apprentice. Easy prey for Yellowfang, she hissed. At the insult, Firepaw felt a surge of fury. Just wait. He'd show this coughed-up furball what kind of warrior he was. But not yet, he told himself. Wait until you feel her teeth again. Yellowfang bit down. Firepaw surged upward with all the strength in his powerful young body. The she-cat gave a snarl of surprise as she was thrown clear. She tumbled backwards into a gorse bush. Firepaw shook himself. Not such easy prey, huh? Yellowfang hissed defiance as she tore herself free from the clinging branches. Not bad, young apprentice, she spat back, but you'll need to do a lot better. Firepaw blinked as he saw his opponent clearly for the first time. The she-cat had broad, almost flat face,
and round orange eyes. Her dark gray fur was long and matted in smelly clumps. Her ears were torn and ragged. Her muzzle was traced with the scars of many old battles. Firepaw stood his ground. He puffed out his chest and glared at a challenge into the intruder's face. "You're in ThunderClan's hunting ground. Move on!" "Who's gonna make me?" Yellowfang drew back her lip defiantly, exposing stained and broken teeth. "I will hunt. Then I will leave. Or maybe I'll just stay a while." "Enough talk," Firepaw spat, feeling the stir of ancient cat spirits deep inside him. There was no trace of the house cat in him now. His warrior blood was up. He was itching to fight, to defend his territory and protect his clan. Yellowfang seemed to sense the change in him. Her fierce orange eyes sparked with new respect. Dipping her head and breaking eye contact, she started to back off. "No need to be hasty now," she purred in a silky tone. Firepaw wasn't fooled by her trickery. Claws extended and fur on end. He leapt forward, his war cry ringing out. "Grah!" With a hiss of rage, the other cat responded. Snarling and spitting, young cat and old locked together. They rolled over and over, teeth and claws flashing, ears pressed fast to his head. Firepaw fought to get a grip, but the she-cat's clumpy fur snagged in his claws. He couldn't break through the skin. Then Yellowfang reared up on her back legs, with her filthy tail bristling. She looked even bigger. Firepaw sensed Yellowfang's huge jaw lunging towards him. He leaned backwards just in time. Snap! Bared teeth closed on the air next to his ear. Instinctively, Firepaw lashed out with a back swipe. His paw caught the side of Yellowfang's head. The force of it sent shockwaves up his front legs. "You!" Stunned, Yellowfang dropped onto four paws. She shook her head to clear it. In the single heartbeat before the she-cat recovered, Firepaw saw his chance. He threw himself forward, crouching low, and clamped his jaw tight on Yellowfang's back leg. The taste of matted fur was horrible, but he chomped down hard. "Yow!" Oh, wait, no, she said, "Row, row, row!" Yellowfang screamed in agony and whipped around to snap at Firepaw's tail. Her teeth connected and pain lanced up Firepaw's spine, and it only made him angrier. He ripped his tail from his opponent's grip and lashed at it back and forth in rage. Yellowfang crouched, ready for a fresh attack. Her breath seemed to wheeze up from her foul-smelling lungs. The scent blasted Firepaw's nose. Up close, the message of desperation and weakness and the aching of void of the she-cat's hunger was almost painful. Something stirred inside him, an unwarrior-like feeling he didn't want. Pity. He tried not to dwell on this instinct. He knew his loyalty must be to his clan, but he couldn't shake free of it. "You speak from your heart, young Firepaw." Lionpaw's words echoed in his head once more. "This will make you a stronger warrior one day." Then Tiger Claw's warning rang in his ears. Or it might make him give in to kitty pet weakness right at the moment of attack. Yellowfang lunged forward and Firepaw jerked instantly back into aggression. The bigger cat tried to reach up to his shoulders and get a killing grip, but this time she was hampered by her wounded leg. "Gah!" Firepaw arched his spine, but Yellowfang managed to dig her claws in and hung on tight. The bigger cat's weight forced him to the ground. Firepaw tasted the earth on his tongue and spat out a mouthful of grit. Pah! He twisted nimbly to avoid Yellowfang's thrashing back legs and the thorn-shaped claws that were trying to rake at his soft underbelly. Over and over they rolled, biting and snapping. Moments later, they broke apart. Firepaw was gasping for breath now, but he sensed that Yellowfang was weakening. The she-cat was badly wounded, and her back leg could barely support her scrawny body. "Had enough yet?" Firepaw growled. If the intruder gave way, he'd let her go with a warning bite to remember him. "Never!" Yellowfang hissed back bravely, but her injured leg gave way and she slumped to the ground. She tried to get up and failed. Her eyes were dull as she hissed up at Firepaw. "If I weren't so hungry, I'd have shredded you to mouse dust." Then the she-cat mouth twisted in pain and defiance. "Finish me off. I won't stop you." Firepaw hesitated. He never killed another cat before. Perhaps in the heat of battle he would, But a mercy killing in cold blood? That was something very different. What are you waiting for? Yellowfang taunted. You're dithering like a kitty pet. Firepaw smarted at the she-cat's words. Could she smell the scent of Two Legs on him, even now, after all this time? I'm an apprentice warrior of ThunderClan, he snapped. Yellowfang's narrowed her eyes. She'd seen Firepaw flinch at her words, and she knew she hit a nerve. Ha! She snorted. Don't tell me ThunderClan is so desperate they have to recruit kitty pets now. ThunderClan is not desperate, hissed Firepaw. Prove it then. Act like a warrior and finish me off. You'll be doing me a favor. Firepaw stared at her. He would not be goaded into killing this miserable creature. He felt his muscles relax. His curiosity prickled from him. How had a clan cat gotten in such a state? ThunderClan elders were looked after better than kids. You seem in an awful hurry to die, he meowed. Yeah, well, that's my business, mouse fodder. Yellowfang snapped. What's your problem, kitty? Are you trying to talk me to death? Her words were brave, but Firepaw could smell the hunger and sickness that was coming off the other cat in waves. She was going to die anyways if she didn't eat soon, and since she could hardly hunt for herself, perhaps he should kill her now. The two cats looked at each other, uncertainly in both their gazes. Wait here, Firepaw ordered at last. Yellowfang seemed to deflate. Her hackles smoothed out and her tail lost its gorse bush stiffness. Are you kidding, kitty? I'm going nowhere, she grunted, limping painfully towards a path of soft heather. She flopped down and began licking her leg wound. Firepaw glanced briefly over his shoulder at her and hissed quietly in exasperation before heading back through the trees. He batted silently through the ferns. Sun-warmed odors filled his nose, and he caught the sour reek of a long-dead rat. He heard the scratch of insects beneath bark, the rustle of furry things scurrying over leaves. His first thought had been to go and dig up that thrush he had killed earlier, but that would take too long. Maybe he should go and scoop up the rat carcass. Easy meat, but a starving cat needed fresh kill. Only when times were very hard would a warrior cat eat crow food. Just then he paused, scenting a young rabbit ahead. A few more steps and he saw it. Flattening himself down, he stalked the creature. He was barely mouse length away before it detected him, but then it was too late. The white bobtail darting away sent the thrill of the chase surging through Firepaw's vein. A rush of speed, a flash of claws, and he had it. He held the wriggling body fast and finished it off quickly. Yellowfang looked up tiredly as Firepaw dropped the rabbit on the ground beside her. Her grizzled jaw dropped. Well, hello again, kitty. Thought you'd gone to fetch your little warrior friend. Yeah, well, I might still do that, but don't call me kitty, Firepaw growled, shoving the rabbit near with his nose. He felt embarrassed by his kindness. Look, if you don't want this... no, Yellowfang meowed hastily. I do want it. Firepaw watched as the she-cat rip open the prey and start swallowing it down. His own hunger rose back and his mouth filled with water. He knew he shouldn't even be thinking about eating. He still had to take back enough prey for the clan, but the fresh kills smelled delicious. A few minutes later, Yellowfang gave a huge sigh and flopped onto her side. First fresh kill I've had in days. She licked her muzzle clean and settled down to give herself a thorough wash. As if one wash is going to make much of a difference, Firepaw thought, his nose twitching. She was the arch cat of stench. He eyed the tattered remains of the prey. There wasn't much left to line a growing cat's belly, but his fight with Yellowfang had sharpened his appetite even more. He gave in to his hunger and gulped down the scraps. It was delicious. He licked his lips, savoring every last taste, tingling from head to paw. Yellowfang watched him closely, showing her stained teeth. Better than the muck Two Legs feeds some of your brothers, isn't it? She meowed slyly. Knowing she had found his sore spot, she was trying to antagonize him. Firepaw ignored and began to wash. It's poison, Yellowfang ran on. Rat droppings. Only spineless bag of fur would accept the disgusting frog spawn. She broke off intense. Shh, warrior's coming. Firepaw was also aware of cats approaching. He could hear their soft paw fall on the leaf litter as the sound of fur swishing through the branches. He smelled the wind brushing over their coats. Familiar smells. These were ThunderClan warriors, confident enough in their own territory not to care about the noise they made. Firepaw licked his lips guiltily, hoping to wash away any traces of the scraps he just swallowed. Then he looked at Yellowfang and the fresh pile of bones that laid beside her. The clan must be fed first! Lionheart's voice rang through his head once more. But surely he would understand why Firepaw had fed this wretched creature. His mind reeled, suddenly fearful for what would happen to him. His first apprentice task, and he had ended up breaking the warrior code! The end of Chapter 7. We did it, guys! Cliffhanger! I know! What's gonna happen? Is he gonna be kicked out of ThunderClan already? Oh my god, we don't know. We just don't know. We'll have to find out next time on Warriors Reading Stream. Maybe I'll turn it into like, is the stream like this normal for you or not? Not, it's not normal. This is a test almost. I wanted to see what it would be like if I read some of a book. And so now that's what this one is. Nono's Book Club. Every Wednesday for Warrior Cat Wednesday. Nono S Book Club. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, my tooth hurts, man. Kaito, thank you! Oh, look at that! The chat looks cool when someone gifts us up. We did it, guys! We read 7 chapters! Kaito, thank you again! Chio. 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 Chow, 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 chow. Yeah, this is a very different stream than my usual streams. Usually I play games. This book is amazing. I really want to finish it. Even if we don't start the other books, I want to finish this first book. I think that'd be good. I want to be a warrior cat. Yeah, me too. That was my dream as a child. I wanted to be a warrior cat so badly. Before stream the other day, I was trying to think of a warrior name for myself with Daisy, but I couldn't come up with one. I'm still in doubt if this is actually a children's book. It is! Just wait until later. The most gruesome death is probably in the last book? I think so. Either the last book or the second last book. But that image was insane in my brain. But it's so brutal. Momo, you've only witnessed one cat dead. We haven't even gotten to a part where they kill a cat like in real time. We haven't even gotten to that point yet. And that does happen quite a bit. We watch many cats die through Firepaw's eyes. That rhymes. Okay, guys. That's it. Tomorrow we'll resume normal activities. War, violence, anger. We'll resume normal activities tomorrow. All the redeems will be back. What else did I shut down? I think it was mostly just the redeems. Oh, I turned off the chat for the stream avatars. Should I put those back or nah? I don't know. Kind of glad it's ending because I'm tired as heck. Yeah, go to bed. Snip, sneep, 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 sneep. Hydrate, that's right. My throat is kind of dry. But my juice box is empty. But why eat eepy? Yeah, kids need... The thing is, I think, like, what kids love is doing what adults do, you know? Like, that's why so many baby toys are mimicked to look like what adults have. Like, baby keys look like car keys. They have like the smartphones because babies want the smartphones that their parents are holding. They want to do what the parents are doing. And if the parents are watching rated R violent films, then they want to watch rated R violent films. So they got to get a little taste of that in a different way, which is warrior cats fighting each other, or dragons, or owls. If you read the Owl series, the owls fought. Hunger Games moment. Oh my god, Ash, go to bed. Get some rest. We're gonna raid Katie today. Because I have not raided Katie in a while. But yes, tomorrow we are going to be doing... What are we gonna be doing? Monhan! We're doing Monhan tomorrow. And then the next day after that, we're gonna be doing The Walking Dead. So, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Some Monhan. I might, if you guys have Monhan, I might open up I might make a room. I think, is it only 4 or is it up to 8? No, it's only 4, right? We can hang out. Only 4, dang. 8 was, what was 8? Oh, 8's Core Keeper. Okay, guys. Thank you for listening to the story. I hope you enjoyed it. Yeah. I'll see you guys tomorrow. I love you. Have a good day. Make sure you get up. Have a stretch. Raid message? Oh, raid message. You're right. Thank you. Bye. 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 Good night. Good morning. Have a good day.